keys and go up to the stars on your face. Higher than a Bible, has been at the wind flow. Don't let it turn your race. Higher than a Bible. She's so fine. She's so fine. She's so fine. She's baby, get the keys and go up to the stars on your face.
So yes, as you can see, that is a snippet of our next guest is a single called "Addicted" from his sophomore album, the hardcover. I am so honored to have him on tonight because I mean I've been following his content for quite a few years now, and I realized as I was reaching out to him that he's also a screenwriter, comedian. I knew about his work as a recording artist, but I was not aware of his other talents. So I definitely look forward to getting more into that with him. So, I meant to make sure that I put on my bra so I can make sure that I be presentable enough to have this conversation with this handsome young man right here. So, without further ado, I would like to present to you and introduce to others Brother Calvin Michaels, y'all. Yes, Brother Calvin Michaels is in the building, y'all. Give it up for Brother Calvin Michaels.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yes, YouTube content creator, screenwriter, comedian, recording artist, all those things. And he decided to come on my little piece of platform to converse with me. So I'm so looking forward to having you on here. I'm glad that you're on here. So I like to always start in the beginning, Brother Michaels, if that's okay with you, because before you became this name on YouTube, before you became a household name and all these other avenues, you were born and raised somewhere. Where was that?
Yeah, so I am originally from Washington State, from this small town called Spanaway, which is about 45, 50 minutes from Seattle. But we were military, so we lived in a few places. But yeah, Spanaway is what I consider my hometown.
Okay, so now what was that like for you? Like, what was like as far as being brought up in actual state of Washington? Because no one talks about the state, Washington State. There's always DC. No one talks about the state of Washington.
Yeah, and what's so funny? I just remember being a kid, and anytime somebody would say like, "Where are you from?" and I would say Washington, they always are like, "Oh, DC," and I'm like, "No, it's the other one." But it was an interesting experience, mainly because we weren't in Seattle. When people think of Washington,
they think of that. Right.
We didn't even get that. We were in a small military suburban town. Maybe right now, I think the population is maybe about 30,000 people. But when I was coming up, it might have been a third of that. And so kind of a quiet life. The town that I was in is not really an actual city, so it didn't have a mayor. Our downtown was Kmart. It was like the shopping center called Pacific Commons. So, and in it was a pet store. There was this Mexican restaurant called El Hidalgo, and there was a Dairy Queen and the bank. That was the town.
Oh my goodness!
And so
no mayor, huh? No mayor.
No mayor. No, that was the town, right? Two high schools. So I guess we was doing it kind of big. We had two high schools.
Oh, okay.
But it was different. There's not a large Black population there, at least in that side. You can find some cohorts and pockets of Black, populations once you start getting into Tacoma, Lakewood. But Spanaway was pretty rural, pretty quiet, but I still had a really great childhood. I loved
you did. Okay, because we'll get into that, but I'm trying to adjust it because I'm look like Calvin, help me out here. It seems like I'm like kind of off the frame here. Am
Yeah,
I?
there you go.
Okay, I'm because I'm trying to center myself. Okay, there we are. All right, thank you for that. Yeah, so when you say you brought up, were you brought up in a two-parent household, single-parent household, siblings, like because you said it was a pretty small.
Yeah.
So did you have a
So
sense of community? Because was your community and neighbors like family as well?
So, interesting. So my parents were separated until I was 5, and there was a period where we lived actually in Tacoma, which is the bigger city, about 15 minutes away. So it's like I want to say the second largest city in Washington State. It's either that or Spokane. But anyway, so when my parents were separated, we all lived in the same apartment complex. Me and my mom lived in apartment R, and my dad was up the street in apartment V. It was these apartments called the Drake Apartments, and so
Oh,
I didn't even know they were separated. I just thought that was normal, right? And you get on your parents and go on to your daddy's house, go, and then he give it, go on to your
okay,
mom. So,
okay, so right there. So y'all was just right
but
within the same community. It was like a what how you call it? Is it a colony? What is it called? What is it called? Like when you have a complex.
oh yeah, like an apartment complex, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was that, and then because we kept moving back and forth, like my parents would get stationed in another country, and we'd always end up back in Washington. And then so as far as Spanaway, you know, the neighborhood that I lived in the longest is this town in Spanaway. We had maybe 5 or 6 black neighbors nearby, and your parents are friends with every last one of them. So when you
Got
get to
you.
those teenage years, you still can't go and just do anything because mom and dad have eyes all throughout the neighborhood. Our actual family, none of our family lived in Washington State. Everybody was either in California or in the South and some parts of the Midwest. So I was one of those kids that I went to the South every summer. At
Oh,
my
okay. And we're in the South,
Savannah, Georgia. Um,
Savannah, Georgia. Okay, okay.
every summer, every Christmas, grandma's house. And sometimes I can go with my dad's side of the family because they were in the Bay Area in California. But mainly a lot of my childhood was Savannah, Georgia, as far as if you want that conversation of community. And I'll say for a place like Spanaway, those pockets of community, that was the barbershop, that was the church.
Yes, yes.
And that was really it. There weren't a lot of, at least in Spanaway, a lot of places that were those culturally significant spaces for Black people to exist in. So yeah, you really had the barbershop and church, and that was it.
Duly noted. So you said so both parents were in the military?
Yeah, so actually both were, and my father had gotten out. He did about 15 or 16 years, and he had got out when I was maybe 4 or 5, and then my mother retired from the army in 2000.
Oh, so she's Army and your dad was what?
They were both army.
They're both Army. Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so I mean, those VA benefits come in handy, I guess.
Yeah, my mom is living good.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. So now, okay, so that's good because you said you come from a world space where, there was just like, one of each thing, barbershop, one store, one, but then you say you back and forth in Savannah. So Savannah, did you have more access to more of, civilization, so to speak?
Savannah was and still is one of my favorite places ever.
I hear so much
Just
about
I
it.
love that city so much as a kid. And because again, that would be the one place I would go to where it was normal to just see Black people everywhere. I wasn't used to that in my
Mhm.
hometown. So, I would be so excited to go every summer. Then, I'd be pissed off when I had to come back home.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
will say there were spaces once you got into Tacoma or Lakewood. But the thing about Spanaway is that if you didn't have a car,
Mm.
you're only in
You won't
Spanaway.
get nowhere.
So
Like,
as
you're
a
not,
kid,
yeah.
or even a young teenager without a car at that point in time, I'm limited to home unless a friend can take you somewhere. So that was the thing. But I mean, if you went to Seattle, it was a full 180 experience. I just never had it because I didn't grow up there. So,
Yeah, but let me get Calvin, let me get back into because like I was saying, you had the best of both worlds because
mhm.
I'm in Atlanta. I haven't been to Savannah yet, and I'm looking forward to just going there. So did you have more access to city? As I'm a city person, so I'm just always
Yeah.
wondering, you have the rural side, but then is the area of Savannah that you was in, was it more city like or was it more country?
So it's funny. Coming up, Savannah was the big city to me. Like Savannah,
Okay.
and Savannah's it's a lot slower than Atlanta. I'll say that. But where
Oh
we were
yeah,
at,
yeah.
my grandma lived in East Savannah, and so she was kind of in the side that's not too far from downtown. Like we were right down the street from Daffin Park, and then Forsyth Park wasn't too far either. Forsyth Park is where they shot the bench scene in Forrest Gump, and so that was right there. We weren't too far from the news station, which was really cool. I used to be excited to walk to Crystals, and then sometimes you could see them actually taping the evening news.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
Savannah it was a city experience, but it was kind of like a rural city experience, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
yes, it
It
does.
wasn't like a New York City or a Chicago, Houston type
Hmm.
thing. But coming from Spanaway, it was everything. Now I will say Seattle was a much bigger metropolitan area. To me, Seattle was the big city, but we didn't even go there that often. That was kind of like a once or twice a year type of thing. So yeah, Savannah, to me, it was a city experience and a black city experience. So yeah,
Did you
even the radio was different. So
got you. So did you visit DC at all?
DC.
DMV. Oh, DMV.
So no, and it's crazy because I have family here. I didn't know that they existed until I started undergrad, but I had only been to DC one time, and what it was, my parents got stationed in Italy, and so when we were moving from Washington, one thing my father wanted to do was just do a big road trip around the whole country. So my mother had flew to Oklahoma. My younger brother, because he's actually adopted, he's actually our cousin. He had already been sent to Savannah to be with his real mother.
Okay.
My father and I did this road trip where we started in Seattle, worked our way down to California, visited relatives and stuff, then went across. We stopped in Texas. He took me to the Grand Canyon. We picked my mom up in Oklahoma because she was with her best friend. Went on into Louisiana, Mississippi, had family that we visited there. Spent Christmas in Savannah, then went up the Carolinas, visited four people.
That sounds so
and then my
nice.
dad was like, "Hey, you want to see DC?" I was like, "Yeah." And so we drove through it because 95 go through. So I remember us driving through it, and I was looking at the U.S. Capitol. I didn't realize there was a difference between the U.S. Capitol and the White House. I thought all that was the same thing.
Oh, it was the same, right?
And then we ended up in Philly, and then once we got to Philly, that's when we flew to Italy. So that was my one DC.
That sounds so amazing, though. That sounds like a time. Wow.
Oh, I had a ball. I love a road trip. Yeah.
I like that.
Some people don't like sitting in the car all day. For me, I feel like the road trips were my music lessons.
You know what? I wouldn't mind. It just depends on who I'm riding with.
Yeah, they can't drive crazy.
Yeah. Not just driving. No, I'm talking about the person, the people. I'm talking about it depends who I'm riding with.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind, but yeah, that sounds so wonderful. And the fact that, and I love to hear as you saying that you spent your childhood traveling or you've been to different places. And I'd love to hear that because not a lot of us didn't have the opportunity to experience that, to be able to step foot in different spaces. I mean, grown as I am, I'm just really, starting to do that just a little bit more, not even that much, but it's more than before. So I just really like the fact that you had the opportunity to at least travel and have those experiences with family. Have those memories with your family, so that is a blessing right there. So I thank you so much for sharing that. I really enjoy hearing it, because it just resonates so much with what it resonates so much with the what ifs in my mind. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. So now I just always want to get into more of like the elementary and junior high school, because we don't talk about that. Yes, because I always love to hear that. I tell like some of my guests about how pivotal it is, when it comes to elementary and junior high, because you're starting to get to know your anatomy, you're experiencing different things, you're going through puberty, your girls' menstrual cycles, and you have a little added testosterone that you didn't know that existed. So it's just all those things, your expectations are greater when it comes to academics, and you're getting to know, different types of children. Some that are nice, some are not so nice. So it's just so many different things that we experience as individuals. So I want to know your individual experience in elementary and junior high.
Okay, so elementary was a little up and down because we did most of the moving while I was in elementary. So I went to technically 4 different elementary schools.
Wow.
I spent kindergarten and first grade at Beechwood Elementary, which was on the military base. And then, true story, when it was time for me to be promoted to second grade, the school felt that I wasn't mature enough, and they wanted me to repeat the first grade. And my
mature
mom
enough at 6?
Right. And my mom was like, absolutely not. Ain't nothing wrong with my child. And then we left that school, and I ended up going to Camas Prairie, which is school in Spanaway. And I was there for second and third grade. And then we moved to Italy, and I was in Italy for 3rd through 5th grade. And then when I got back to America, I was actually going to spend that first year in Savannah. But when I got to Savannah, the school was like, he's a little behind. We think he needs to repeat the 5th grade. And my mom was like, nope. And we went right. I ended up doing 6th grade in Spanaway, and that was actually the first year I ever got straight A's. But as far as school, like socially, it was interesting because I was always moving. And so it makes it really hard to kind of lock in because in the back of your mind, you think you're getting ready to leave. And so with Italy, the interesting thing was because we were on a military base, you would make a good friend and y'all would click. And then 2 months
And
later,
then right, you be moving. Yeah.
well, I think it actually affected how I built connection with people as I got older. I was so used to
Yes.
people always coming and
Yes.
going,
I was
coming
going to
and
ask
going.
you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, how did that affect you? Especially socially, because it's like, you don't want to attach yourself too much with it because then, yeah, you're going to move on.
When I got back to Washington State for 6th grade and then jumped into middle school, I was the awkward kid out. I didn't get close to folks that first year or two because I figured we'd be moving again or something, and at that point, what was weird was when I came back for 6th grade, I went back to Camas Prairie, so it was the same school I was at for second and a part of 3rd grade. But even though I remembered all the kids, none of them remembered me, and they had all established their lifelong friendships and stuff. So I didn't quite fit in. And middle school was the same way. Seventh, because my middle school was 7th through 9th grade, and then high school was 10th through 12th. And so with middle school, I was the awkward, odd one out for the first year. I was really quiet, kind of kept to myself. I ended up befriending this one kid. We both loved music, and that we ended up being best friends because of music. And we were obsessed with the same artists. And then we both had music dreams of like being producers and stuff like that. So that was like the one good friend I had. And then when I got to like 8th and 9th grade, I kind of fell into my pocket. I started realizing I was a really good dancer. And I was also funny, I guess. I was always making everybody laugh. So by 8th and 9th grade,
that's when the funny started.
I got my footing by then. By then, I was doing the plays because I also played every sport. Baseball, soccer, basketball. Now I wasn't good at basketball. I should have been playing it. Football, I was decent. The problem was I wasn't growing. I was always a smaller frame kid.
You didn't have any go. You ain't. You have a growth spurt. You didn't have that.
I was late, so eighth grade was the first year I did football. I was maybe 5'2", 85 pounds, and mind you, they had me on defense, so I'm supposed to be stopping the big kids. And then 9th grade is technically high school, but it's still at the middle school, and I still didn't.
Right.
I had more interest in like theater and stuff, so I remember like, Dad, I don't want to do this no more. I'm good, I let football go. But I didn't get that growth spurt until the end of my 10th grade year. I went from like 5'3" to maybe 5'6", and then when I graduated, I was 5'8". But yeah, I was always a shorter, smaller frame person for most of the teenage years.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you participated in many sports. So we getting through the elementary and junior high school phase, and now we transition into high school. What high school did you go to?
So I went to, it was called Spanaway Lake High School. The only thing that I could say that anybody may ever know about that school is that the guitarist from the band Alice in Chains, if you've ever heard of them, went there. That's it. That's all I got. So God willing, my career will jump and I can be a famous alumni from the high school. But yeah, so Spanaway Lake for 10th through 12th grade.
Okay, and so during high school, did you continue any extracurricular activities? Did you find your footing as far as what became of you creatively now? Based on your career now, did that start in high school? So can you give me some of how that transition started with you? Did it start in high school, by the way? Did it start?
High school is when I really got my footing. You couldn't tell me.
I figured that. Okay.
Yeah, like 9th grade was when I had really like landed in my pocket. But by the time it was 10th grade, because the other thing that best friend that I had that I said that we did music and stuff, they ended up going to, there's a performing arts school called Tacoma School of the Arts. So they went there, which meant I was kind of like on my own again. But I had friends and stuff at this point. And so I kind of blossomed in my own realms where I was being known as the kid that danced. And so you do all the talent shows and eventually you're on a dance team and stuff like that. So I had that going. I was really good at track. And so I was on, all the jumps. I was knocking out the jumps, hurdles, triple jump, high jump. That was my thing. So track I was really good at. And then I got into student government. I ran for office. I lost the first year.
Makes sense.
And then I ran again going into my senior year and I won as student body president. And I want to say the reason I won, I got along with everybody at the school. Like high school was a lot more diverse. It was about 1,800 students, maybe 200 of them were Black, but there was another huge Pacific Islander population. There was a huge Latino population. There was all these different groups because, again, we were a military town. I had always messed with everybody. And because I was a theater kid, too, I messed with all of them. So when I ran, I kind of had some good leverage with every group at the school, and I remember I rapped, which is, I wouldn't do this today, but I rapped my speech. And at
Oh,
the time, the
that's
Union Kids had
okay.
just the
That's
Whisper
clever.
song. Yeah, and so it was to the Whisper instrumental, and so I that was my speech, and that took me over the edge. And so yeah, I was student body president. Um, I was very involved in high school because again, there's nothing to do in Spanaway, so you need to be involved with something.
You
So
gotta
I
be right, right.
never home as a teenager. I was always after school at something. And so high school ended up being a really, really good time.
Right, because you engaging much more, and so let me get a little bit more into just real quickly, Calvin, into the student government because like I said before, you do a lot of political commentary, and I'm not a political person, I'll be honest with you, but I just want to kind of dive a little bit more into that because well, first off, let me start here. As student body president, what are some of the activities have you done? What have you executed, President?
Yeah, so I was the person in charge of putting together every assembly and pep rally, which was really cool because I also got
Yes.
to MC it. So it was great
Ah,
practice being in
ah,
front of crowds,
yes.
all the school dances. It's you and then the other people that are on your, student government council. You put together all of the homecoming events. We do a lock-in every year where we actually invite like the leadership from other high schools, and you spend the night in the school, but you have all these different activities you do all night.
Right. Got you.
Stuff.
Mhm.
You represent the school for different initiatives that may be taking place at the state level. If the governor is having some kind of dinner or gala, you're at that. The state fair, you have representation for your school there. You also get to allocate and dictate what clubs and what after school activities get what funding at the end of the year for the next year. You're not the person saying yes or no, but you're on that committee. And so
Right.
you get to do, a lot of things where it's when they say like, because when it's like student activities, that's all your thing. That was a lot of fun. I'm trying to think what else we did. It's so much fun. The year that I was president, it was a levy and bond year. To sum that up, when you're funding your schools and everything, it comes out of property taxes, right? And so normally in Spanaway, residents would vote on a levy. The levy is what determines how much the teachers are going to get paid, how much still just goes into daily operations. And then the bond is the extra, the icing on the cake. Is a school going to get a renovation?
Got it.
Are they going to get a new track? Are they going is some school going to get a pool? And so it was that year the levy and the bond had failed. And but the thing
Mm.
is, when they fail, they get a second opportunity to be voted on before the end of the year. And so I remember we led this whole campaign. We was going door to door, knocking on doors, trying to get people. And mind you, this is again rural town. Folks got dogs and all kind of stuff. I ran from a few people's yards, but we fortunately
Wow.
the levy and bond was able to pass. It wasn't that it failed because people voted no. It was just people didn't vote at all. It was getting people to just turn out. So fortunately, it passed, and the good thing was that high school ended up getting a renovation a few years later.
Wow. So you did all this in high school. So you really made a mark. You really made a name, in high school. Like that is amazing,
Yeah,
and
high
that's not
school.
something to that's not something to gloss over, Calvin. So yeah, congratulations on that. That you was able to accomplish that in your town in high school. You know,
Thank you.
that's the more that I can say for our current administration. No, okay. Um, but anyway, so go back to so it started there. Your political stances. So let me ask you this. So when you became so involved, in the student body, you became so involved, and I'm still on high school now, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump just real quick. I'm gonna jump into how did that how did you feel compelled to dig deeper into politics itself? Like what made you decide to want to do politics overall? Was it from that experience or was your overall interest in the political climate?
Um. Okay, I'm gonna try to sum this up without ranting. But
Okay.
while I was living in Italy, the last year that we were there, Slobodan Milosevic used to be like the prime minister
Mhm.
of Yugoslavia, and he decided to invade Kosovo and take over. The United States jumps in, NATO jumps in, we're bombing Yugoslavia, and you're doing all these different things. And Yugoslavia is across the Adriatic Sea from Italy. So we're just right across the water from all that. And so then there ended up being this large influx of people who were seeking, just safety because their country was being bombed, coming into northern Italy, which is the segment of Italy that we lived in Vicenza, in the Veneto region. And so I just remember going to school, and abruptly out of nowhere, our school buses needed to be bomb sniffed every day and police escorted to the base. And sometimes when we be coming to school, there were protesters outside the base, like, F you Americans, death to all. And so I'm like, what's going on? Because, if you're a child that's been presented a certain thing about the country you live in, I'm thinking we're the greatest country in the world and we're saving the people. Why do they hate us so much? And ever since that day, I just always started questioning everything. And so by the time we ended up back in America, I remember following the 2000 presidential election. I didn't know a whole lot about what was happening, but I just remember, and this is a silly reason, Al Gore was on MTV at one point. So I was like, well, I'm going to vote for that guy because he knows who Britney Spears is. And so if I could vote, I'm voting for him. And so I remember following and watching and the case with Florida and the Chad and the this and the that, and remembering that, okay, something ain't right about this election. And it seems like George might have stolen this thing or something ain't right. And ever since then, I was always just locked in politically. And then coming into my senior year was Hurricane Katrina. And so this is where that cultural disconnect kicked in.
Yes.
The hurricane was the week before we started school. And so as we started school my senior year, we're talking about it in history class. And I just noticed that so many, especially the white students, just kept talking about, why didn't they get out? And they should have did this. And this is actually good for them because, they can start over. And, they were living in these kind of neighborhoods that weren't good anyway. And at that point in time, some of the people who had been displaced in New Orleans were actually being sent to our area because there was space at the military base for temporary housing. And so hearing the conversations of how some of the residents were being very skittish about folks that were coming, like, oh, I don't know if we want them here. We need to put up a gate and a fence to keep them kind of trapped in. All of that is just setting off light bulbs.
Yes.
And I just never saw the world the same way again. And so that actually inspired me initially in college to be a political science major because I'm like, I'm going to save the world. So that's how it started.
Good. Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, political science. I'm gonna get back to that because, like I said, we're still gonna go. We're gonna reel it back to high school and college, but I just want to kind of stick to the political aspect of So just I'm gonna just stick to that right now. Yeah. So now, given the climate that we're in right now, how did this come about? You connecting with this?
Oh Lord. I'm like, what is this? Oh no, this is so when I worked with the kids, this is actually this was a month before I stepped down from my position working with the kids because I had been at the center for 11 years. Working at my center, we had a much smaller center. We were always under the radar, but when you put in the time and the effort and the love and the heart, your center starts to thrive. And at that point in time, my center was thriving like nobody's business, where we're getting all these national accolades. In this actual picture, at the time, we were the #1 center within the organization in the country. Nice. And so a lot of times, because we were also in DC Metro, you get a lot of opportunities. There's always celebrities in town. There's always some political figure. Barack Obama was getting ready to promote his series on Netflix he had done a docuseries about like Mother Nature and stuff and the national parks. And they needed a few kids and some centers represented. And they didn't tell us it was going to be Barack Obama. So, we sign up because it's me.
Can you imagine if you knew?
And I got an attitude because I'm like, here they go. They always want to say, okay, well, I'll do it. Sure. And then like, well, we do have a special guest, and they still didn't tell us. And so but it's very serious. And so, okay, sure, we'll do this. I'll go because we've been to every event with a special guest. Sometimes you have a really great special guest. It's Denzel Washington. And then other times, like one time I remember we had Phil Chenier, who he was a great basketball player in the 70s for the Bullets. That's great for my parents, but for the kids, they don't know who that is. So
right.
Because they heard, Mr. Michael, you said there was going to be an NBA player. He is, but
they don't know that. They don't know him.
Yeah, same LeBron. And so anyway, and much love to him. He was a great person to work with too. But then I finally get the notification the night before that it's Barack Obama. I was like, oh my God, and I'm about to pass out. And so I remember I could only take 7 kids, and I had to, in that quick turnaround, I had to, call the parents, tell them like, you have to swear to secrecy because I can only take 7 kids. And the minute it gets out that they're meeting this guy,
Yes.
So,
Well,
but they're asking
yes.
to give me, information for the background checks. And then this is actually at Great Falls Park. So we had to be there like 6 a.m. Because Secret Service has to do their thing, and then they have to clear the perimeter, make sure there's no crazy person that's going to jump out and try to, do anything crazy. And then we were actually filming for the Today Show in this picture. So my kids were doing a scavenger hunt with Barack Obama. And there was another group
Wow.
of kids that were doing a scavenger hunt with Al Roker, and it was Al Roker and Barack Obama having a competition to see who could complete the scavenger hunt first. And so that's what this is. Yeah, that I always say that was my parting gift to the kids before I transitioned out. But that was a really cool day. And Barack Obama actually was very approachable. I figured, okay, it's gonna be you get 1 foot near him and Secret Service jumps in but no, once they cleared the perimeter, the kids had free reign to him. Like they were trying to climb on his back and high five. I was like, hey,
Wow.
on TV,
Like, right.
You act like y'all got some
Tone it
sense.
down.
So yeah, and he got the kids got to hang with him for a good hour, which is really
Really? That's amazing.
After the, once they got past the initial shock of, oh my God, it's Barack Obama, everybody loosened up. Really great time.
Wow, that's amazing. I could imagine. So did you interact with him at all?
Yeah, I did, but I was so busy trying to get all the pictures of the kids.
Okay.
And I had already met him before because I got to go to the White House Christmas dinner in 2013. Or really, I met Michelle. I kind of saw him in passing, but so I kind of already gotten my Barack Obama whiff. Plus, I live in DC, so sometimes you'll be on the sidewalk and the motorcade would drive past, or you end up at the same concert because he and Michelle go to a lot of concerts. So there's been a few concerts where they've been at the same show. So yeah.
Okay, that is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that experience. Is anything else you want to share about this experience before I'll bring us back up?
Oh, the only thing was once the parents found out that their kids didn't go, I got cussed out in so many.
Oh Lord! Oh my! I can
I can only take 7
imagine.
kids, y'all. So
why they mad at you? I mean,
yeah, and really the kids that I
Yeah,
chose
you're the
were the ones
closest
who
one.
were active, and again, my teenagers were really mad at me, but I was like, my teens at that point, because at this point I had been there 11 years, my teens had done everything. I was like, these little kids, they need that moment.
They need that. They do. They do.
So they understood, but we moved on. Everybody was fine. So
Yeah, I know, but I thank you so much for sharing that. Again, I do appreciate that. And so I want to ask you also, just given that experience, and you were part of that campaign when you was running at that time. So I just want to get your honest feedback about this because there's been so much of mixed reviews about his presidency and how he um how he ran the free world. So there has been some controversy behind it. There's been some divisiveness when it came to how, especially with how they felt like he didn't do enough for Black people, even though he's a president of all of us. But I just want to get your honest opinion about how did you view Barack Obama as president?
yeah, so I think the challenge that exists is for somebody like a Barack Obama, because he also was the first, there's that element of symbolism that's there. And I think sometimes we get lost in symbolism. And Barack Obama, I think, is a person that many of us, in addition to him just being the president, people became a fan of. And I think when you start holding politicians into that realm where you become a fan and not understanding that they work for us, then you're let down when everything doesn't align the way that it's supposed to go. If I had any critiques for Barack Obama, the main one would have been sometimes the foreign policy I didn't agree with. I was never one that agreed with like the drone strikes in Syria at all, and in that aspect. But I will say, when we're talking about here, stateside, if you're looking at the cabinet that he had, if you're looking at a lot of what was accomplished, he had one of the best cabinets of any president in modern history, and he was able to get a lot done. Now, if we're having the conversation of, well, what about the Black community as a collective? I think that there were a lot of things that were done. I do feel that he could have moved a bit differently, but I think we also were living in a space where we couldn't anticipate that what's happening now would even be something you could fathom.
True.
Because what ended up happening is once he got out, you watched them start dismantling everything that man ever had accomplished.
Right. Yes.
And I know people always say, oh, well, when he first got in, he had the House and the Senate, and he could have did more, and all we got was the Affordable Care Act. And I'm like, it was healthcare. We didn't technically have it before, but if you're going to do the numbers of what we actually had, once you take into account those in the Democratic Party that were more so center and moderate and often voted with Republicans, he really only had that supermajority for about 3 months. And so that's why we were able to get the Affordable Care Act. But I think, again, with a lot of the EPA protections, those are really good things. There were a bunch of things that were done to try to remedy what was there. I think his job at that point in time was to bring stability back to the country after us coming out of, boom, the housing bubble bursting,
Right.
and the economic recession. And so I feel like that was the job that he mainly needed to lock in with, and he was able to do. Everything wasn't perfect with any president. You're going to have those critiques and those flaws. I wanted him to fight a little bit more on some things. I will also say the only other time I got really mad at him was when he called the kids thugs from Baltimore after Freddie Gray. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But I will happily go back to that any day versus what we're dealing with now.
Right. And we're going to get more a little into that. Yeah, I want to definitely get more into that, but I just wanted to get your take on his, I want to get your honest opinion, not just, because, as a black man, but just overall as our leader of the free world. I want to get your take on, because he I understand like him getting his footing in the first term. I mean, he's getting his footing in, so there's certain expectations they're not going to be automatically realistic, but then you have a second term,
and by then he had lost the House, so now he doesn't have the same power. Now, like I said, it wasn't perfect. The symbolism, I think we hold on to. You get excited to see Michelle on TV, right? You get excited to see the daughters and all. We love all that, but symbolism isn't tangible, and I think that's where there's always been that somewhat of a divide collectively when we have the conversation, because it's like, yeah, we love that, but what about that? Because then you bring in like the reparations conversation, like why wasn't he fighting for reparations back then? And so there's so many other layers that kick in. So overall, I think it was a presidency that sustained the country. I think there could have been a few things maybe they could have fought a little bit harder for, but he actually it was an uphill battle for everything.
It was.
If you remember, in his last 2 years, he pretty much was just doing executive orders because Congress wasn't moving on anything. So, yeah.
And so, so right now, like, we're going into the second term of, I'll say rump without the T, because we kind of remember. But however, and I know that I'm gonna have an unpopular opinion. I'm going to get some backlash, but there are some areas in that our current president has done that is. I'm trying, Calvin. I'm trying. I feel like there's certain things that were executed for our benefit. Well, maybe it hasn't been executed in the way that it should have been, as far as how the immigration has come, because the migration has been overwhelming, especially in New York, where I'm from. It's been overwhelming because you have all these people coming in who we don't know who they are, what their background is. That you could be among child molesters, you could be among criminals that we don't know about, and they're getting certain benefits that are reaping, as they're migrating into this country that we are not able to get access to as citizens. So it's just like I said, it's just the way I think that the certain things has been executed. I think that's been kind of hard. I'm just using that particular example, but I just feel like this is the way that the administration is executing that is kind of harsh, but to me it's necessary.
So I'll say to that, one of the problems that started taking place in this country was as they continue to pull and strip away the funds that benefited all of us, we still need those same services, right? But then at the same time, they kind of took the immigration conversation and radicalized it. So then you have Governor Abbott in Texas who starts sending those busloads and planes to other cities, sending them to New York, sending people to DC, Chicago, and everything else like that. And then the cities get overwhelmed with, okay, now we still have to also take care of these people, but now somebody else has to come at somebody else's expense, which is what I think created a lot of animosity and just other folks who are like, well, we already were down bad, and now we're not even getting this either. And so what it ended up doing was the money and the resources were always there for everybody. They just purposely chose to ensure that if you can keep different groups of people marginalized, fighting each other all night, all day, then yeah, one group will be perfectly fine with whatever's happening if it means that they might get a come up or, that kind of thing. And then I'll say too, a lot of times when they kind of paint the narrative of everybody's a criminal or a rapist and everything like that, a lot of times, if we're being honest, numbers wise, and I'm only saying this just because there were pockets of kids that I work with that came out of these same kind of populations. Usually, those that are undocumented have way lower crime statistics because they're not trying to be on the radar. So even like even with the current administration, they push this narrative like, oh, they're buying houses and getting all this stuff. At this point, if we're listening to what's being told, they're getting free college, they're getting big old giant houses, lower car interest payment, like they getting everything. And I'm like, they're getting all of this somehow. And you're meaning to tell me that the rest of us have no access to all of this. Like they found a way to push the narrative that these populations are getting things that they're not eligible for to begin with. They're getting the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid and Medicare, all the stuff that they're not even allowed to get legally. But again, when you're in a country that's not healthy right now, everybody is trying to eat. And so when you feel that you're owed something and that you and your lineage has been here for however many generations and you've watched the United States actively work against your collective federally, whether that was redlining, whether that was all that stuff, and you just get whacked and whacked and whacked, you might feel some kind of way.
Yeah, and we do. I do.
Yeah, and so
especially, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to kind of interject a little bit because it's like, in our country the way it is now, but it's like we have all these, like you said, the resources are there, but we tend to focus on giving those resources to other countries and not, and not starting at home.
I'm glad you said that because.
Yeah.
And the perfect example, and this is why I always say, like in these conversations, I always try to encourage people to be very nuanced and look at the biggest picture possible. Okay. So even this conversation of healthcare, right? We just had this whole shutdown for 30 plus days, and it was centered around the healthcare conversation and extending the subsidies on the Affordable Care Act, right? About $35 billion. That's how much it would cost over the span of years. We just watched this administration give $40 billion to Argentina farmers, specifically their soybean farmers, where in the United States, you just had soybean farmers in the United States all filing bankruptcy because Orange Man and his crew burned the bridges with China, which was our biggest purchaser of soybean, where China all this year has said, nope, we don't want none of y'all stuff. We got it. We'll get it from Argentina and Brazil. So literally, we burn the bridge with one of our biggest customers, and then we fund the very country that is draining the industry that we once had. So now our soy industry is in the hands of a Brazil and an Argentina. And so when they say that there's no money, there's money. So you will ignore the $35 billion for healthcare and say, no. But then you'll give $40 billion to Argentina. Or, so they've always done this game where they pick and choose what we get. And again, when you look into the bigger conversation of the tax codes kept changing, the resources keep drying up because there's not enough revenue to play with as far as funding our schools, funding, the different programs and everything, because the rich continue to get tax cuts. I always say the nail in the coffin for this country was the Paul Ryan tax cuts of 2017, 2018. That's what really did us in. That's when I think a lot of us started to feel the brunt of what's happening now. And it's only getting worse. But with less money to spend on infrastructure, on programs and everything else like that, and the wealthy continue to gain more and more and more. And think about what $20 feels like now versus 10 years ago. Yes. Right? $20 can barely get you one meal at Chipotle at this point. Don't add no guacamole. You gonna have to $22, right? And so I always say, I always hear and empathize with these conversations, with how people feel, because I feel like people have a right to feel the way that they feel. But like you said, the execution is the problem. And I think if you're gonna have this conversation about like immigration, then to me the conversation should be, how do you fix the system so that people who, because I think for a lot of people, they'll just feel better if people are technically considered, I don't like the phrase legal because it sounds weird, but
undocumented.
Some people feel better if that was the thing. And I always say, even in that conversation, those who are considered not documented, they still put all their tax money into the system and then they don't get the benefit from it. And so I think that the goal is supposed to be to fix the issue. And part of it would be, let's stop destabilizing all these countries that they're coming from. There would have never been an issue with people coming across the border had we not gone and had a coup in Argentina, had a coup in Panama, a coup in Nicaragua, did the stuff we did to Mexico, did the stuff we did to El Salvador. Like, we had them whack every country down.
Made matters worse. Yes.
And then you get mad. So we're mad at the outcome or the symptom. And so I get it. I hear that. Yeah. I don't really fight people back on it because I think people have a right to feel how they want to feel. But yeah, like you said, the execution of how this is happening is terrible.
So, because how do you resolve it? Because it's like, and I want to get into, Calvin Michaels as president. So
Oh Lord,
if
I am
you
not
were,
ready. They're gonna take me out on one.
but just for this platform, we're going to, hypothetically, if Calvin Michaels was president, where do we go from here overall? Not just with what we just discussed just now, but just overall, how do we come to resolve? And is leaving the country at this point the answer? Because a lot of people are doing that. They're moving to Ghana. They're moving, different places. Because I wish I could do that. So, what would be some of the okay? Let me just ask you this as president, Mr. Michaels. How would what are some of the key things in this climate that you, in your own perspective, that we need to be focused on? Give us some of those bullet points of what we need to focus on in this climate, and what are some of your suggestions on how we need to remedy those things.
Yeah. Okay. One of the first things I would really go after is one, education. I think Americans have
Yes.
just gotten dumbed down so bad.
Oh
And
yes.
it's been
Yes.
intentional and it's been an ongoing process for 40 years. And now we're at the space where you can have a bunch of idiots in charge and just tell us anything, and half the country runs with it because we don't have discernment anymore. There's not an element of just critical thinking. And so, again, when you're in a country that only allocates 6% of the budget to education, but 2/3 of the budget to war, this is the end result. So education, my thing and my goal would be to, one, have like a 25-year plan to
Mm,
recalibrate how Americans see education and how Americans are educated. That also includes college needs to be free, and we can afford it because, again, if you can send 40 billion to Argentina, you could have just paid for everybody's tuition for the next handful of years and then some, and also
yeah.
kept student loans and still had some left over. And in the same way that they just voted for the big beautiful bill, which is going to add $5.2 trillion to our national debt over the next 10 years, that was more than enough for everybody to have free healthcare, free education, and also technically you could even put money into people's retirement and we'd still have stuff left over. That would help the country
Facts.
a lot more than what's about to
Mhm.
happen here. So education would be one, right? And in addition, I would also utilize what happens in our media to educate. I think one of the reasons, me personally, that I think I was locked in with a lot of stuff when I lived in Italy, because we only had one channel on the TV. It was a military American Forces Network channel. There was no advertising shown. Instead, they showed educational commercials. Every commercial was something that taught you something. So you're watching whatever show, but every single time they went to break, it was some kind of commercial that was educational. I would put that into the children's programming as far as the network. So like a Nickelodeon, a Cartoon Network, a Disney, I would have had a stipulation where 20% of the advertising on those networks needs to be educational, and then the federal government would just pay the difference of what they would have made from advertisers privately.
Mhm.
That way,
Interesting. Okay.
children are
Mhm.
getting an insight
Interesting
on
concept.
yeah,
Interesting
so
concept.
that we make sure something like a PBS is funded because, again, not
Mhm.
every kid has cable, and we underestimate how many people live in rural America where there is no broadband and they still got the rabbit ears. Well, not anymore. We're all digital now, but where literally the only channels you're gonna get are the local channels plus PBS, and so that's one thing. So education, of course, healthcare. Um, Finding and creating a way to make healthcare more affordable. The problem is we've privatized so much of it where the insurance companies can do whatever they want. The thing that I'll say about the Affordable Care Act, had we gotten what they initially were really trying to present, we'd be living large right now. But the problem was, and this is another critique I would have had of Barack, was that because he knew that there's that animosity of him just being in office because of this right here, he was always trying to paint himself as I'm everybody's president. I want to reach across the aisle. So even though he had a supermajority and had the votes to pass the Affordable Care Act, he still created a bipartisan committee to look at the bill so that
Mm.
when it passed, everybody could say, well, Republicans saw it, Democrats saw it, it's going to be fair, it's going to be good. And so by doing that, the Republicans on that committee kept saying, amend this, amend that. No, we don't like this part, take this out. By the time it got to the floor for a vote, Republicans had put 200 different amendments on what would have been the Affordable Care Act. And
Got
then
it.
when it was time to vote,
Mhm.
and again, remember, Democrats caved on us like, okay, well, fine, we'll take this out, we'll take that out. Okay, fine, fine, fine. Then when it came time to vote, not a single Republican voted on it, and the Democrats pushed it through. And so it was like, you got conned here, where you had this beautiful healthcare plan that would be so much better than what we have right now. And then again, the idea of, well, let's play and reach across the aisle and be friends with everybody. They weren't trying to be your friends. They're trying to
No.
sabotage what you had.
Mm-mm.
They were successful at doing it. So there will be that. I would currently put in guardrails to make sure that what's happening right now will never happen again. There is no reason why we've been able to dismantle the federal government this easily You got Elon Musk who went in there, fired them 300,000 plus federal workers, and you've watched them go and gut agency after agency after agency after agency. Somebody was asking me, why do we need a Department of Education? I don't understand what it is. Because they had a system work. They were screwing our kids over anyway. And I'm like, okay, two things can be true at once. But understand, if you're a Black parent that has a child with special needs,
yes,
the Department of Education is going to ensure that your child is going to have access to an equitable education. The Department of Education is going to ensure that even when it comes to the food programs, that your child has, equitable opportunities for food, like all those kind of things. People mix it up and kept thinking Department of Education makes the curriculum. They don't. The states don't do that. So, there's that piece. Foreign policy. We currently have, well, I don't know the numbers right now, but before January of 2025, we had 870 military bases around the world in all these different countries. And so my goal would be with foreign policy, we're going to have to get to a spot where we're not constantly in some mess every week. And so I would personally start trying to not make amends, but build better camaraderie with a lot of the countries that we don't get along with. And also take note of the fact that we don't need to contribute to anybody else's oppression. This whole attempt that they're doing in Nigeria. Well, yes, Nigeria and Venezuela, all of that is some nonsense. They're about to put us in some stuff we don't need to be a part of.
Right.
That emphasis on infrastructure. Our infrastructure is dated. Our bridges are still old.
Right. Yeah.
So bridges, we keep seeing one collapse every few years, right?
Yes.
Emphasis on that. So infrastructure needs to be rebuilt. The idea would be to even enhance the workforce. I would even put stipulations on what's happening with AI, where it's here, we can't make it go away, but we need to create a space where its existence is not going to be to the detriment.
Oversaturated, right? Yes.
Just careers. And then I would make a stronger EPA, because right now, because Orange Man and crew have gutted the EPA, there's no federal regulation when it comes to air emissions right now. And that's why you're seeing the influx of all these data centers get built really quickly, because right now they've just gutted some of the Biden era regulations on that. And so now if you take a look at like what's happening in Memphis, where the air quality in some areas is so bad, where you're not even recommended to live there anymore because the air is that bad. A lot of people, unfortunately, it's going to kind of be like what we saw with G&E or PG&E in California when all those people got sick. Years later and had all kind of cancers. That's coming. If it's not cancer, it's going to be emphysema. It's going to be sarcoidosis. It's going to be something. But so, I mean, those would be some of the things I'd really be locked in on. Making sure senior citizens are taken care of. A lot of senior citizens can't retire. Just people who are, pushing 80 still working at Starbucks because the way that system worked. And a lot of it will be protections for people who always get scammed and lose everything. That would be a thing I would look into. I think I talked about college tuition, but that's ridiculous with how high it is. In addition to fixing, you can forgive everybody's student loans, but you still have to fix the system so that the next cohort of people don't fall into the same boat.
Right, you don't have to deal with that, right?
So those kind of things, and again, like I said, so really, we spend so much time undoing what has just been done in the last 10 months, but also repairing and rebuilding our relationships globally with other countries, and being in a space where it's okay to partner and collaborate economically if both of us can eat. I know we paint all the other countries to be the enemy and China this and China that. Listen, China needs us in the same way we need them. So you know what? How can we collaborate? How can we, let's iron this out in a way that's feasible for both of us, and not even just China, all these countries. Like we vilify and villainize all these other countries, and we do exactly what they do. So those would be some of the things.
Even more so. Okay. Oh, well, look at that. Calvin Michaels for president. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that's my move. Until I get the actual sound. But I really appreciate your take on that. So and you just you're giving so much thorough details on how where the climate where we are right now and where we should be. So I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you sharing your political stance. I mean, I know there's so much more. I mean, you scratched your surface just now, but
you get me going.
So I want to get like more of an idea of where you stood as of right now, because it could change tomorrow. But I just want to know where it stands right now, and I wanted to get more into your political realm. So I do appreciate you sharing that with us. But I want to go back into the high school because we haven't left it yet. So but I want to make sure I got the political stuff out the way. So
right. That's always the litmus test for how you're gonna deal with somebody once you start hitting political opinions. I say you can be friends with anybody until you start talking race and politics, And then, oh, wait a minute.
You shut them down. Yeah, you shut down. So now when you so you talked about how active you were in high school. So outside of like you being president of student body, of course, academically you're doing well. You engaging in the sports and all that stuff. But I want to know, like, how did you develop as an individual, as a person, in high school?
Um, around that time, I thought I was gonna be famous. I used to tell everybody I was gonna
Oh,
be in Rush Hour 3, but then Rush Hour 3 came out the year I graduated, so I was like, okay, maybe if they do a 4, I'll be in
what
there.
made you believe that? When made you believe that? I'm
Chris
curious.
Tucker was my favorite person when I was like, Rush
Really?
Hour was the first movie I saw when I got back to America, and I thought it was the
Wow.
funniest thing ever. And I was like, I want to
Oh,
be just
okay.
like Chris Tucker. And so I remember when Rush Hour 2 came out, I had my dad taking me there the day it came. You couldn't tell me nothing about Chris Tucker. I thought he was the funniest person when I was a kid, and so I wanted to be just like him at one point. But yeah, as a person, I knew there was more out there, and I knew I wasn't going to be living in Spanaway after high school. I had already made up in my mind. I didn't know where I was going or what I was doing, but I knew it wasn't going to be in Spanaway.
Yeah, but why did you want to relocate? Why did you want to explore other territory?
Yeah. So once you lived in other places, there's more out there. And so every time we moved back to Spanaway, it was harder each time. Especially after being in Italy. Europe is pretty small. And so it's nothing to like. So when I played sports in Italy, we didn't play other schools because there were only so many American schools. The American schools were on the military bases. You played the military bases. So when I played soccer, we only had 2 other bases that were within driving distance in Italy. So then we also went to Germany and we would play kids. And sometimes you go to Austria or you may end up in France. And so you're seeing all these places, and it was nothing for your elementary class to have an overnight trip to Florence to see the 17-foot David or to see, like, that stuff was just normal. And so then when you come back to a Spanaway and, the biggest deal in town is, the night before Christmas, Santa Claus is on the fire truck. That's the biggest thing happening. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I think
And
it's
then,
time.
and I
time
go
to
to Atlanta.
Yeah.
And my cousin Brandon was from Atlanta. And early 2000s, everybody who did not, I'll speak for myself. Everybody I grew up with wanted to be in Atlanta in the early 2000s. It seemed like the coolest place in the world, culturally. Oh man, I used to be so jealous of my cousin because he lived there. And that's back when music was still very regional. And so I remember when I'd go to Savannah, because he'd also come to Savannah too, he would give me all the music that had just come out. And then I would be the ish when I got back to Spanaway because I'm the first person who has this. I remember specifically when the whole Snap movement came out. I didn't really like those songs, but I was the first one to have D4L, I Bet You Can't Do It Like Me. And I got to school. I got something for y'all.
So they gravitated towards you then. Okay, yeah.
Man, you couldn't tell me anything. And so I just knew there was more out there, and I really wanted to experience it all. And I knew at this point, since I was going to be in Rush Hour 3, I needed to be in LA or New York or somewhere. I couldn't make it here. And my parents were supportive too. Oddly enough, I don't think I've ever told this story, but I actually was supposed to audition for Chris Brown's Run It music video. Really? But I missed I ended up showing up on the wrong day. And so I missed it.
How did that happen?
I'm not gonna say bad information. I don't think we were thorough. We had the wrong information. We showed up the day after, and so then I was a hater for the whole first year when Chris Brown came out. Like shit, like talking trash, mad because I wasn't in it. They ain't even dancing that hard because at that point I was dance, coaching teams, and we were competing all around the area. So I was a hater because I was pissed off about it. And then I was gonna audition for Step Up 3 because they were filming it in Baltimore. And they were filming it the summer before I was getting ready to start at Howard, but I never got there fast enough, and I didn't know how to get. I didn't know how that worked, but yeah. So,
oh my gosh,
get out there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So speaking of Howard, because that's a good segue into college. That's where you went. Howard. Alrighty. Yeah. Yes.
I always said we need a better channel. I always thought we could have had something better than that, but it's okay. I'll keep it.
Well, that's one of the things you could implement. Mr. President, you could kind of.
I'm not going to get whacked by every alumni. They like, So, nope.
Yeah. So that experience for you, and you political science major, correct? You said.
Well, so I was political science major, and then about halfway through, I realized I don't think I want to do this because, again, like Howard has like a bunch of different schools, and they have a fine arts school. And I remember I'd be walking past the fine arts school. They'd be having like a workshop with Debbie Allen that day, or Roberta Flack was on campus to do it, and I'm just watching the theater kids, and I'm like, I want to do that. And at that point, I knew I wanted to do A&R and music, and so I changed my major to communications because at that point I was a little too far in, and I knew if I wanted to graduate on time, I still needed to get some classes that mirrored. So I made political science a minor, and then I switched to communications my junior year.
And so, why communications?
Communications, because at the time I was like, this can be the degree it's pretty universal because it can fall into a lot of realms. And I wasn't sure if I was going to go to grad school or law school afterwards or anything like that, or if I was just going to up and move to New York and try to get an A&R job. I was like, a communications degree, it works. And so, yeah, it was that. And again, it was just one of the closer degrees to political science where I wouldn't have to take a whole bunch of new classes and do a 5th year. I could still get out in time. Now, I will say, if I could do it all again, I would have just done the 5th year as opposed to trying to cram and be out in the 4. Because when I graduated, we were in a recession anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. So now, so that's your degree is in communications, right? Yeah. That's your degree. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, during college, you transitioned from high school. Did you go straight to college from high school? Straight. Did you live on campus?
I did.
Oh, good. Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah, a great time. I always used to tell my kids, when you go to college, you want to be in the dorms, at least the first 2 years. Some people go and get their own apartment.
Yeah, especially in HBCU, you're going to have a time. I can imagine.
Times were had. It was a great
times were had. And so now you're becoming more of yourself. You're focusing on your classes. You're focusing on what your goals are. You're doing the thing. And so then you graduate. What did you immediately start doing when you graduate? Did you go straight into the work? Did you do what did you do right after?
Now I was unemployed for a year and a half. Okay. Yeah, I moved home, and I was sad because there's a long story that I wouldn't have enough time to explain. But I thought that there was something I thought I was going to be doing when I graduated, and it fell through, and it wasn't even remotely close to happening. And so I had
what was that?
So I was supposed to be working at a law firm for a year, and I was also supposed to be house sitting this super wealthy couple who was going to be in Europe, and they were going to pay me to watch their house. So I was going to do that while I worked at the law firm, and that would buy me 1 year while I figured out if I was going to grad school or not. And then if I did, by then I would just go ahead and go to grad school, or I would just start the workforce. That was the plan. I was going to stay in DC and then go to New York. None of that happened. And then I found out literally the week of the graduation that, okay, the job at the law firm is not happening. It's some logistic stuff. We can't do it. And then the couple is no longer going to Europe because we're in recession. They're going to just stay home and save their money.
That recession, boy.
Man.
It just did it to you.
I remember, now my parents were happy for me to come home. So, and I would say, honestly, it worked out because I didn't know my father was sick at the time either. He had scleroderma, and it was starting to advance. So it actually worked out, oddly enough. I can say that now, but at the time, I wasn't trying to be back in Spanaway after being in DC for 4 years. And so, yeah, I remember going back home. I remember walking to my parents' hotel with my little suitcase, depressed, like, I cannot believe I'm going back to this ish. And then got home, I saw that same bunk bed I had from when I was 12.
What? They didn't change it? They didn't change your room?
Yeah, no, it was a futon bunk bed I had. So you had to sleep on top. So I'm climbing up at 21. I took a nap. And then when I woke up from the nap, my grandma died. I'm like, you got this? My grandma had died.
Oh my God.
I'm like, Lord. Yeah, 20, that first year out was a time.
Yeah, it was
that same best friend that I was telling you about for music, we had fell out in that year. Everything that could go wrong went wrong in that year.
Yeah, you had that pile up.
It was like pop, 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 pop. Just surprise, everything you could think of. But at the same time, it also planted the seeds for a lot of the stuff I do now. So everything still worked out.
Yeah, apparently. I hope it did. Like, it just has to go up from there. Yeah. The light has to be there. The light has to be at the end of the tunnel.
Somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere.
Because it was so bad. And being in Spanaway during the recession, again, this is a town that doesn't have a big industry. I had to compete with people who had been laid off from Boeing and Microsoft and Amazon for jobs at Applebee's and Kmart. And it was so bad, Applebee's wouldn't even let me wash their dishes because that's how competitive it was. So I was down so bad, my mom was just giving me $20 every week. I was like, which was kind of like what I was getting in high school, but I was like, $20, that ain't even enough for gas anymore. But Yeah, but that's around the time I started the YouTube channel. That's when I started getting into comedy.
Got it.
Everything
Mhm.
still worked out.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for that segue. You just segue so well, Calvin. Thank you. I just love how you just go right in. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So yeah, but so that year was you reached when that year was kind of a drought. It was a rough
Mhm.
patch for you. But then like I said, you reached that light at the end of the tunnel. What was that light for you at that time?
That light was I had landed the job at the
The
community
job.
center with the kids.
Okay.
Hmm.
All right. And so and you got that job. What was your responsibility? What were you
So I was
doing?
the branch director of that community
Mhm.
center. So I was in charge of the logistics, the financing, the grants, day-to-day operations, but we were underfunded and understaffed. So I was also
Wow.
very hands-on with the kids where, when the way that the role was presented to me was I'll be in my office doing all the stuff and making calls and making things happen. And hey, let's do lunch. And then I would come out, shake a kid's hand, and go back in my office with my suit on. It was nothing of the sort when I got there. I was mixing paint and
Mhm.
crayons and we wiping noses and so, but I loved it. It was a lot of fun. So it was,
Yeah, I can imagine. It sounded like it was.
yeah. So
And
they did a
so,
good job.
okay, and so now so with that position, how did that mold you into all the other
Woo!
aspects of life? How did that mold you? Because that took that position had to take you somewhere. It had to take you, or it had to mold you. You know,
Yes, it
yeah.
was a lot. The first year was a test because I was looking at
Yes.
new jobs. Like I ain't about to do this too long. And it was because okay, I had a supervisor that was a micromanager, but we were underfunded. But they still wanted you to make magic happen with nothing. Because we were down so bad that like I didn't have a company credit card the first few years, and we
Mm,
were given kind of like a little allowance to play with for your center, and that allowance was $150
wow.
a month
Ugh,
for a whole center. That's
ugh.
snack, that's field trips, that's incidentals, that's so you end up spending your own money to make
Yes.
do with what you don't have because at the same time the
Yes.
organization at that point was going through furloughs and they were closing a few centers because the money was funny. So there's that, and then that specific center opened in 2007. I got there in 2011. In those 4 years when I wasn't there, they had 7 different directors. So the
Oh,
kids initially didn't take on to me right away because they figured,
right.
just like how I was talking
Right.
about my
Right.
experience with military
Yeah.
kids,
The
that I'd be
detachment.
leaving.
Right. The
Yeah.
detachment. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so it took a minute for the kids to warm up. The parents were a little skittish. And then this wasn't a big center. This wasn't a center with gyms and football fields and no, it was a converted 3-bedroom apartment in an apartment complex that
Mm.
they made into a
Wow.
community space. And that center was a multi-purpose room, a computer lab. I ended up making a teen room out of this other room that used to be used for storage, and then the kitchen and a bathroom. That was the center. And
Wow.
so I had to make some magic happen. I learned in that process, relationship is everything. And so I started building relationships with people in the county, in the area, vendors from different stores. And by doing that, we were able to get a full renovation. Because when I got there, the center looked like hell. It was roach infested to the point
Mm.
where even on the stove, when you look at the clock, those digital numbers, you could see little roaches walking inside the clock. I
Oof,
was like,
oof.
I know I didn't fly 3,000 miles away to do this, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So,
But
it,
but you were there for a reason. Let me ask you, what is your spiritual beliefs before I go any further? What are your
I
spiritual
was
beliefs?
raised a Christian, Kojic, Church
Okay.
of God in Christ.
Oh,
Lord,
okay. All right. Now here, okay. So now,
Lord,
okay.
we was deep
All
growing
right.
up.
Oh, okay. All right. So there you. All right. So I wanted to tell you that God, placed you there for a reason. That you had a purpose to fulfill, and you did it well. So
Yeah.
you had implemented, but you did so much with so little, and I'm
Mhm.
sure that the people in that center was very appreciative. So how did they receive you after that? I know that.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
once we got into our pocket, those were some of the best years ever. And what's crazy again, I was grossly underpaid, but the reward was so good because it was like, plus the team that I worked with, all of us, we all stayed the entire 11 years together. Nobody ever quit or got fired or anything, and so we came up together. We were all the same age. We were all like early 20s. Folks got married and engaged and stuff like that. And then with the kids, the neighborhood had a waiting list for people to move in. So I always had the same cohort of kids the full 11 years. And so kids that were in first grade when I started were graduating when I left. And then, so it was just like they grew up with you. And eventually, once you have the trust of the neighborhood, things just changed. It got to a point where, because it wasn't always the best neighborhood, but when stuff would go down out there was a respect for that community space. People knew, don't bring no mess to that center because there's a guy and his people over there that are making sure all our kids are good. So when the adults were doing their shenanigans, or somebody about to go shoot at somebody or something, they knew to never bring it to the center.
Don't bring it, right.
And it rubbed off on the teenagers.
Yes.
The teenagers knew drama from school. Don't let no other group of teenagers from another neighborhood come in here with no mess. And so people respected the space, and it made the entire neighborhood better in general.
And I love that. Okay. And I'm glad you added that, because I was just, as you were talking, I'm thinking about how important community is.
Yes.
And you have not just having a community, but you have to be in sync enough to actually make that happen, to where they will be protective over protective over that, over that safe space, because there's a safe space for those children. There's a safe space for, so the fact that the community itself were able to protect that safe space.
Mm-hmm. And I can't take all the credit, because my number two who worked there, she was from the neighborhood, which was God's sake. Like, she grew up there even before the center was owned by our company. And so she also spoke the language of the neighborhood. And so when there were things that I didn't understand culturally, or she could give me that insight. And so the two of us together, like, that was some magic.
That's what I said. Very, very phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So congrats on that. So now, once you transition from, how long were you at the center? How long did you work there?
11 years. So I started.
Okay. You started right. Okay.
In 2022.
Yeah. Okay. And so from there, where did you go from there?
So from there, then I started working in a company that supports a lot of like the federal agencies and stuff, where I do a lot of websites for a lot of companies now. So I did a full 180 career wise. And what it was is, it gave me the luxury to work from home and give me time to put more energy into my projects and stuff that I also like to do. The only challenge I had with working at the center was that you give up so much of your personal life. You give up so many weekends, if we're closing at 7 or 8 o'clock, and then I still live 30 minutes away from the center, and maybe I have an engagement or something at 8:30 or 9 p.m., but there's a little kid whose parent hasn't picked them up yet, and I can't go until
like
that. Or there's the teenager who decided this is the day they're gonna run away. Today, I
have some plans set. Like, like, this is a judgment right now. Yeah,
at the same time, I was working for a magazine freelance on the side that was based in New York. And a lot of times I have to be in New York for film festivals and stuff to cover for the magazine. So I was doing that. At this point, I'd already jumped into music. I jumped into all this other stuff. I was burnt out. I was exhausted. Because again, with kids, I always tell people, like, when you work with them, if it's a day where I have 55 or 60 kids, all of them want your exact same energy. You can't, whatever's happening in your personal life that day, you got to just pause it and take it to your car when the day's over. But when you get in there, they want all of it.
It's all about them. It's all about them.
And they all got different energies. The little kids have a different want than the teenagers, and you got to give it all. And it's great, but sometimes you're just exhausted. And so trying to do that and do all of my creative endeavors and all my projects, and, have a social life. And, I was telling somebody, I did not get to experience a full summer where you get to go on beaches and vacations until I was 33, because every summer for me was summer camp, where I needed to run summer camp, and spring break. I needed to run spring break camp. And then during the holiday season, yes, you can see your family for Christmas, but you still need to run a winter break camp, because these camps are when we make all of our money, because we were only charging like $50 for membership a year for the kids. And so to make your money back, you get it back from the camps and whatever you get out of grants and donors. So I sacrificed all of my studies. And so
you put in a lot. You put in a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really did. And so, but now you were able to get more into your groove, like you said, with the music and the screenwriting. And so so now we get into the meat and potatoes as far as your creative side. How did that all happen for you? The comedy, the music, the screenwriting. How did that all happen for you?
It's weird because, I feel like I've always kind of done it all in some capacity, but everything connects to something else.
Yes.
If I'm talking music, well, let me come back to music. Comedy, I got into during that year when I was home, with nothing to do, trying to find a job. There was randomly a day, I was watching somebody doing some comedy show, and I was like, I can do that. And so I just randomly went on Craigslist, and it was like comedians. And I saw that there was an event from this agency called Live Shots, and they were doing open mic nights in downtown Tacoma, and they needed talent. And so I signed up. They didn't vet anything, and they just let me get some stage time. And so, okay, I went, invited a few friends, and I said, hey, if I suck, y'all just start laughing, okay? And then nailed it. And then it went so well, they invited me back for the next one. And then that next time, they gave me 20 minutes of stage time. Normally, when you first start,
that's a lot. 20 minutes is a lot.
You know, 2, 3, sometimes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They gave me that 20 minutes, and I'm already long-winded. This was perfect for me because a lot of my comedy was storytelling anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That 20-minute set went so well that after that, I was like, okay, I'm doing comedy. And then I just started doing all these shows. So that's how the comedy started. In addition to that, that ties to the YouTube channel. So I was already I had been teaching dance for a few years at that point. And that came from, in those years living in Italy, like I said, we had no TV or anything to watch because there was only one channel. This lady that came from America had just recorded Janet's Velvet Rope Tour and had it fresh on VHS. She had just moved to the United States. Me and my dad watched it. That was the first concert I ever remember watching on TV. Hooked.
Yeah,
I was watching that thing every day. And I was copying and emulate everything I saw. And then somebody else had Michael Jackson's History. Maybe it was Dangerous. One of the Michael tours. And I used to just watch those two and copy. And then before you know it, you're doing little talent shows here and there. And then those talent shows lead to now you're doing the assembly at the school. And then the lady that was in charge of the dance team in high school needed more boys because, you know, boys don't want to dance. Boys are too cool to dance. And so I wasn't too cool to dance. And so I joined the dance team. And by the dance team, we had a choreographer that screwed us over just as we were, because in Washington State, dance is really big. It's just like you go to a state competition, just like the football team or like a cheerleading squad. We had our state routine. The choreographer we had kind of scammed us, and we had an team. So me and a different friend ended up having to choreograph and fill in the gaps and add music and stuff. And so by doing that, and then us still getting in the state, the lady offered me a job as the choreographer for that team the next year, even though I was getting ready to go to Howard. And she was like, how we can do this? It's like, you know, when you just come home on the summers and stuff, you can just, you know, teach all the routines and we'll fly you in when we can. The district had a partnership with Alaska Airlines. And so my freshman year of college and my sophomore year of college, I was going back and forth between Seattle Metro and DC like once a month to teach the teams. And so I say all that to say that it got to a point where it got really hard to keep going back and forth because I'm still a student. I need to make sure my grades are good.
Yes.
YouTube is out. All right. So now I can upload my lessons on YouTube as an unlisted link and send them to the channel. And so that's how the YouTube channel initially started. It had nothing to do with me cussing people out.
Wow.
And then at the same time, fast forwarding, when I started doing those comedy shows, I wanted to promote them and I wanted people to see them. So I started putting my comedy shows on the YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel was initially promotion for my YouTube or for my comedy and a way for me to still teach my dance classes because I couldn't quit because I was in contracts with. Because I'll say by then I was also teaching additional teams. So it was my old high school team, but like 4 other schools, and I signed contracts. And that's how I was getting my food and stuff for college and money for clothes and stuff. So I had to fulfill them. So that's how YouTube initially started. And around that time, I started sharing my 2 cents and stuff. And the YouTube started growing a little bit because I started having opinion-related videos. Then that led into, I did a web series called Generation Black in 2013. That was the first time I had jumped into kind of like screenwriting and film. I had actually got rejected from NYU for music business because I was trying to get a master's. And my friend was like, you should do a web series. Because at that point, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll just try that. Because I didn't think I was going to still be with the kids for so long. Because at that point, it had been about 2 years with the kids. And I was like, I've had a nice run. I'm ready to try something else. And so I thought I was going to go to music business school, get rejected from music business school, and start the web series. It was a learning experience. Lots of things that I didn't know, but it was still a cool experience. So we do the web series, and by then the channel just keeps growing and growing and growing. And at this point, I'm also doing like reviews and critiques of films and stuff that come out. I critiqued a documentary entitled Light Girls. It was the response to the documentary Dark Girls. And at the time, I was really trying to be open-minded because I was like, I understand the plight of why women that are darker skinned have the things that they deal with. And so I figured Light Girls would do that same thing, but I felt that it was more so a reaction to Dark Girls. and it was more so divisive than
Yeah, it always is. It
critique.
always is.
So I
Yeah.
remember I did a review on it. Like, I learned nothing. If anything, this enforced everything that was said in the other one. It confirmed it. And so there was a woman who had her own magazine. It was a film resource magazine for Black filmmakers, who saw that review and was like, "Oh my God, I want you." So then she pulled me in, and that's how I ended up working at the magazine for a few years, for about 4 years, covering all the film festivals, interviewing a bunch of folks in New York all the time, which was really cool. So it got me exposed into a lot of spaces and made me want to dive deeper.
You never know who's watching.
Right. And so I did that for some years, but then around 2016, 2017, I was wanting to jump into music too. Cause like I said, I grew up in church. I was the choir director in that year that I was living at home with my parents after college. And so I've always had a love for music. I always used to, make beats with my friend that I grew up with as a kid. And by then they had their own recording studio when we were adults, and we'd go there and write demos. And we thought we were getting a production deal with A&M Records this one time. Because Mark Mazzetti was in contact with this guy that we knew. And we were told, okay, come up with 30 songs and we're going to present them to Mark Mazzetti. And if he likes them, you guys will have a production deal with A&M. Now, that's 2010, 2011. Unfortunately, egos and stuff got in the way. Friend fell out, and the guy didn't have no connection with no Mark Mazzetti. He was just trying to use our beats because he didn't know how to do music. So I say
all that, yes.
Anyway, fast forward.
It was just a mess. It was a mess.
It's so much going on. So fast forward, 2015 happens. Janet Jackson comes back out, and she's going on tour. My absolute fave. I ain't seen her in concert since 2008. I buy Unbreakable tour tickets, and then me and the magazine person that I work with got along so well. I bought us tickets for the New York show too. Like, we about to just be Janet Jacksoned out.
Yes.
She's not pregnant and cancel the tour.
Oh wow.
It
doesn't end with you, huh, Calvin? It just doesn't.
No. So then the money that I got, because I got the refunds back, the money that I got back from those canceled shows, that was the seed money I used to start my recording studio.
Nice.
By then I already had a new MacBook because my mom was nice and bought me a MacBook when I was doing Generation Black, the web series. So I built a recording studio, and by then I wanted to start doing music. So then that's when I started recording my first album around 2016. And that was Sonic Euphoria. That came out in 2017. The YouTube channel kept growing, and people kept saying, you need a podcast. Like, because remember, technology is a little bit different in 2016, 2017.
Yes.
People are like, we're driving, but we want to listen to you like on a podcast. We can't watch you while we drive. So then that's how the Comedically Hard-Headed podcast started. Because at this point now I have recording equipment. And so, I started filming the podcast. So then we do the podcast. I'm recording music at the same time. I dropped my second album, The Hardcover, which does a lot better than the first album. And the podcast is growing and growing and growing. We come into the pandemic. I get a message in 2021. And at this point, I've kind of slowed down the podcast a little bit because I was running out of stories to tell. And there's this lady who's like, "Hey, I just listened to your Pullover So I Can Hit You episode. That was the funniest thing I've ever heard. I want to work with you. I'm a film director. What if we?"
How you get these people to? These people are drawn to you, Calvin. How you get these people? They just be watching and they hear you. They're really they pay close attention.
Yeah, you just never know who's watching. This is 2021 at this point, and I think my YouTube channel was maybe at about 30,000 subscribers, maybe. So I'm starting to get a somewhat of a following.
Right?
But,
don't go. Right. That's a big deal.
But even when I had the magazine, I think the magazine at that point I had 4,000 or 5,000 at that time. So there's just you just never know who's watching.
You never know.
I start working with the film director. We come up with all these great ideas. We get to know each other. Her energy is great. She also went to Howard as well, and then she graduated from USC Film School, which I had been rejected from a few more times because I still was applying.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And then so we ended up creating the short film Pullover So I Can Hit You. We did some film festivals. She and I still work together to this day on a bunch of stuff. So it's just everything was interwebbed and connected, which is why I always say, like, you just never know where you're going to end up and how things work. And so I could say literally all of it started because, hey, I needed to teach some dance classes, but I couldn't get to Seattle anymore. And I put some unlisted links on YouTube. It just grew from there.
It just grew from there. And it's just so amazing. Just hearing you is just talking about this divine order. That is a real thing. I always talk about divine order. And so, just those blessings upon blessings that you have. But I just want to pull a little bit from the music aspect. I want to know what do you pull from? I know we always talk about experiences of our own or other people's experiences, but in your own personal journey in the music space, Where do you pull from, and what color do you see when you create? What color do you see? I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not talking about just color. What is it more of a deeper meaning when I say what color do you see?
Okay, yeah. I feel like the experience has changed since the very first album. The very first album, I just built the recording studio. I was making beats and singing, and well, first at one point I couldn't afford the microphone. I could only make the music, couldn't put no vocals on, and I started driving Uber to pay for the microphone. And
Wow.
but
Okay.
that didn't
Okay.
last long. I didn't like people in my car, and I used to
Right.
have
Right.
one just in case somebody was ready. I was ready too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, so the first album, I was just kind of playing with all these ideas that I had in my head for years that I could never put onto anything because I didn't have the equipment. So that's kind of like what the first album was. Um, and then, before you know it, I had enough songs for an album. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So there wasn't, I'm not going to say there wasn't heart or anything behind it. It just had a different purpose behind it. The purpose was getting my feet
Mm.
wet. Now
Yes.
that they had gotten wet, and I realized, okay, people actually kind of like this. I kind of want to be more intentional. Like, I really want to do some things. So then the next album, the hardcover, I was like, I think people know me, but they don't know me. They know what I present on YouTube, but what if I put it in the music a bit more? And so that album was pretty much an autobiographical album from the age of 21 up until where I was at that
Got
point
it.
in life, which
Okay.
I think I
Okay.
was about 29, right? So that was depression, dealing with my father passing,
Mm.
not feeling good enough, the issues happening in the world, this, just all these different things. Infidelity, it wasn't me. I just saw somebody else that was tripping and I was calling them out on it. All of that, right? And that's kind of where it came from. And then we fast forward. I took a break for 5 years. Well, not really. We came into the pandemic. I needed some therapy, but all the therapists were booked because everybody started
Everybody,
booking
yes.
during the pandemic. So
Yes.
as a way, because I was losing it for a quick minute, because DC really shut down. We were in the house, everything closed. And at that time, I've been having some health issues between like 2017 and 2020
Mm.
that made me nervous. I had I had walking pneumonia at one point in 2017,
Mm.
and I had a partially collapsed lung. And then
Oh,
I went in for like a follow-up every year. They kept finding polyps each year, and they'd find more and more and more. So I remember the day before I had shot my music video, I had a single called It Played Us off the hardcover album. The day before, they had given me my results, and it said that all these things had metastasized. And I know metastasize is a cancer word, so I was freaking
yeah.
out. And by then,
Yeah.
this is the end of January of 2020, and now
Right.
COVID is becoming a thing. And I was
Right.
paranoid. I'm like, oh my God, I can't catch. Like, there was just a lot going on.
Yeah.
I
Right.
didn't need
Right.
therapy because nothing was making sense for me. And then around that time is when it finally hit me that my father was no longer living. He had passed in 2015, but it didn't hit me until about 5 or 6 years
Mm.
later. So it was like, I need some therapy.
Yeah. Because you didn't get a chance to process it.
I didn't. I put all of my focus in making sure my mom was good
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
my mother, that. You don't expect to bury your spouse in your. My
Of
mom was
course.
51. You don't expect to bury your
Yeah.
spouse that young. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, all my focus was on her, and I didn't take enough time to make sure I was good. And so I started making music as a way to kind of escape. And for me, it was just a peaceful thing where, with everything happening in the world, and mind you, Crazy Man was still in office the first time, it was a way to
Yeah.
escape and just
Hmm.
lock in. Just because I love music, and it took me into different spaces because my musical ear comes from my dad. We would just sit and listen to so many records. That's why I love the road trips, because he would play
Yes.
all the
Yes.
stuff he had and everything like that. And so sometimes just working on those songs, sometimes I'll have a day where I'm not even doing my music. I'm just listening to everything from the 70s, from the 60s, 80s and stuff, and remembering the feeling of being in the car and hearing this song while you're driving over a bridge or that kind of stuff. And then that served as like the inspiration as I started making the music. And for this current set of albums, because I dropped 2 albums on the same day,
The same day.
yeah, so it was technically called the Today Project, and it had 2 albums. One is called Before Tomorrow, and the
Oh,
other is
okay.
called
Okay.
After Yesterday.
After yesterday. Right. Okay.
So how that happened, I have a godmom that lives out here, and I love her because she's very direct. She's my real life Medea without the gun.
Mhm.
And so I love to dance. I love high energy music. I'll say my musical influences for a lot of my sound are usually Prince, Michael, and Janet. That's normally my home base. She ain't into that. She wants some nice, smooth OJs type of thing. And so I remember I was like, listen, I like what you do, but you be doing all that wild stuff, and I try to put on your stuff, and it's lasers and drums, all this. Why you just can't make something smooth? Why you can't make something nice? Like, can I get one song that I can play?
Look at the groove too.
Yeah. And so I was like, actually, yeah, let's do that. So I started making some songs that were a bit more adult contemporary. And as I was making the songs, I realized they didn't fit together on the same album. Those adult contemporary songs with these dance heavy tracks.
Right.
So
you gotta.
I was like, these are two different albums.
Yeah, you gotta separate them.
And that's how I ended up making. And so the After Yesterday album is the adult contemporary one. To me, I don't have favorites, but that's the one I'm the most proud of because it took me out of my element, and I tried something that I don't normally do. But what I feel with it, there's a euphoria of making the music. I can't explain it, but it's something about, because I self-produce everything. There's something about when you first start with your song starts with one track. It might just be a drum. It might just be that. But by the time you finish and you get to that polished mastered version and the vocals have been added.
Yes, so many layers.
Sometimes you'll listen and you're like, how did I come up with that? Because you're even lost, like, I did that?
Yes, so many layers to it. You don't realize.
Yeah.
It's the buildup. It's the buildup.
That buildup, you don't realize it.
Absolutely.
And so I can't explain it. I tell people I just make music because I enjoy it. I've never wanted to be like an artist and go on tour, and I'll do it. I do some shows and stuff here and there, but I make music because I enjoy it. And that's it. I'm not trying to get a record deal as a singer, but I would like to make music for other people. Because I'd love to work with some like phenomenal vocalists and singers and do stuff for them. But for me, I'm content just making people laugh.
Got it.
So music to me has always been a great escapism.
So who do you want? I mean, since we went there, who do you want to work with?
Okay, so can I tell you my little vision here?
Yes.
I think the music industry forgets that people over the age of 40 still listen to music and still want good music. And they don't want to always just only listen to what was. So I would love to work with a lot of the seasoned entertainers that are still out here touring right now. The people who are probably in their 50s, 60s, even late 40s, the En Vogues and the Joes,
Stephanie Mills, Patti
all of those people,
Ozzy Brothers. Yeah.
Yes. What happens is these people are still hungry for it, but they do need an ear that's still to the streets where they can have a modern sound that fits what they normally do. And the problem is most producers don't want to work with them because they're trying to get on. If you're an up and coming producer and you're trying to be that person, you're probably not going to give your best track to Mickey Howard, because you'd rather give that to Rihanna if you get that chance, or to Coco Jones, the people who are currently on the radio.
True.
I would love to be that person to say, Mickey, I got a song for you. Right?
Okay.
I'm happy.
Love it.
All of the adult contemporary artists, and because listen, I
love it.
Sing songs, but
because you still got to bridge the gap, you know. And I think that's why a lot of people question where the stat. A lot of people tend to question the state of R&B. You got to bridge the gap, because again, R&B is still, to me, I still think R&B is still alive. R&B is still within us. We just have to really dig a little deeper into it. And there's a lot of underground artists still out there that we still don't know anything about, or we're not privy to, because and especially in this country, overseas. I mean, overseas is like, they're I mean, R&B is alive overseas, but here they think it's there, but it's not.
Yeah,
it's not. So I'm glad that you said that. Like, you need to bridge the gap between the contemporary artists and the OGs.
And I still happily work with new faces too. But for me, all the people I grew up on are the people I want to work with. Right?
Yes.
Because a lot of them, they have it. Sometimes I think their music doesn't quite connect. And it's just because the production or the producer, sometimes their ear is not calibrated to what's now. And I want to bridge the what's now with what was.
Yes.
Present it in a way where there's quality, where it can sound fresh and new, but be familiar.
Yes.
Because then sometimes you look at some folks that are a bit more seasoned and they're trying to do what 20-year-olds do, and they look crazy. So
I know, right? Because I know, but like I said, do what Charlie will say. Something like do like
Charlie is a great example.
Yes, we can do something like that. Maintain that formula. That's good.
He's current and fresh, but it's Charlie. There's meaning behind it. It's soulful. Yeah, love it.
Absolutely. Stuff. Yeah. So okay. So I get exactly where you're coming from. Yeah. So so let me ask you, Calvin. Now because we covered so much, and I just appreciate so much of what you shared. I mean, it's been great for me. It's been great for me.
Yeah, this has been
fun. So what I want to know is where you are right now, are you? Let me ask you honestly, how happy are you right now?
I love that you asked that because that's a real question.
Yes, it was.
Um, right now I'm at like a 7.
Mhm.
And it's because there's just some things I really would like to make happen, but the way that the world is going right now, I'm like, I don't know how this is going. And the 7 is it's rooted in there's some things I'd like to at some point get done. Like the bug that I'm getting now is like fatherhood. Like, oh my God, I want kids. I want kids. I want kids. Because it's like I'm trying to do this before I get too old and like I ain't trying to be 56 stepping on labor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one big thing. So we're trying to make that happen, but this is not the time because career wise, I want to do another pivot, and the kind of stuff that I do is not conducive to an environment with having a
But
family
for
right now.
family.
And so I'm trying to like really put in a lot of work for the next 2 or 3 years to make
Right. So
it
you could be
happen where
set.
I can create an
Mhm.
environment for it. So I'm technically exhausted right now. I'm
Got
ready
you.
to go all the
Mhm.
time. My only free day where I can like breathe are normally Sundays. Every day I have something going. There's some kind of me. I'm a person who finishes their 9 to 5 and goes into some more work, or I go in the office 2 days a week, but I'm not that person who comes home from work to do more work. And then I still have to also upkeep all of these platforms. That's the other thing. As
Yes.
great as they are,
Yes.
you got to maintain them. So you're trying to constantly at least come up with at least one video or a live at least once every week and a half for the YouTube channel. The podcast, you got to keep that going. I've dropped 2 albums. I will say I'm terrible at promoting and marketing. So I've been trying to do a
Yeah.
better
You got
job
to fix that.
pushing
Yes.
my music.
Yeah.
Um, and then you still try to have a social life and everything like that. And then now I will say, like tangibly, I'm doing really well. Like I have no complaints on that. Like financially, I'm great. Everything's good in that. Um, I'm not hurting, but I'd say about a 7, just because I know what could be.
What
And
could
then
be? What
some of
could
it is
be?
also you just get older. You start to see people get sickly or transition out, and you miss some people and stuff like that.
Of
So that's
course.
what it is. But that's a very I don't think people get asked that question. So I love that. But yeah.
Mhm. And I'm glad that you was honest about it, and thank you for that. And I really want to kind of point you a little bit, Calvin, because you're still very young, very impressionable, and I do understand the goals that you have set and the plan that God has for you, and
Mhm.
you're executing them very well. So I could tell that you're in spiritual alignment there because your divine order, the way it's going. Sometimes it's a little bit of pivots, but I
Yeah.
just want to encourage you to even when if you're hard at work, and I get it, and I really, really impressed by your work ethic just based on, what you
Yeah.
had mentioned, but just find the time to find the you within you.
Mhm.
Find the time to, do a little bit more fun, create more memories that you did on those road trips with your parents. I
Yeah.
want you to understand that, um, I encourage you to value the life that you have left, 'cause, honestly, we don't know, I
Mhm.
mean, it's like the way the climate is right now, we don't know how much we have left, and
Right.
I don't want you to be so consumed by certain things to the point where you're not getting to experience the life that you have within yourself. So I just wanna just encourage you to remain on your platform, still continue to be on that plateau where you are right now, because where you are right now is great, but I just want you to always maintain that balance within you, because you need to give yourself the space to breathe, you
Mhm.
know? Give yourself the space to get engaged with different things that are fun for you, not just work, but just engage in more things that's fun for you. Whether it's doing going to a retreat by yourself, or just um just find something interesting to do, even if it's crocheting. I don't know, but just
Right.
but just find the life within you, Calvin, because I'm so proud of where you are right now. I'm proud of what you've done. I'm so impressed with the knowledge that you have right now. I'm so impressed with the body of work that you have accomplished at such a young age. Because because that's what inspires me. Because so far I've interviewed with so many people, so many personal people that are much younger than I, but I aspire to be where you are.
Oh,
You know,
you're
yeah,
here. You're
yeah,
doing it
yeah.
right now. So yeah.
Mhm.
I appreciate that. And honestly, that was kind of one of the goals of this year. This was
Mhm.
one of the years I started just saying yes to everything outside of like work related. So this was the most I've ever traveled, just like with friends and
Yes.
vacations and stuff. And I love to go to a concert and everything. But yeah, like you said, I've been trying to get that balance where I'm not just exhausted, because you don't. The worst thing that can happen is when the things that you love turn into a chore, and I don't want it to turn into that.
Yes. Oh, yes. 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 So, and I'm so glad you said that, because I also wanted to say, do not be afraid of boundaries. Don't be afraid
Mhm.
of creating those boundaries either.
Yeah.
Because saying no is so refreshing sometimes. You know,
Yes.
even if I mean, just having that boundary, say, let's just pivot a little bit. They might be shocked. I mean, this would be some hard for people to adjust to it, but they'll live with it.
Hmm. Yeah.
They have no choice. Because what they
Yeah.
going what they gonna do to you? you know, and you just feel so much better, you know.
Yeah.
So you said, so I want to know. So I know you said that you was focusing on your music, you're focusing on your creativity. So what is next for you right now, Calvin?
So next, there's two. I can't say what they are because we've
Okay.
agreed to not speak until they're ready.
Okay.
It's just a creative thing. Creative thing. You learn to not share anything till it's there, because then when you put it out there and it don't happen, it's like, well, where is it? But there's two really big projects we're working on, bigger than anything I've ever done, to the point where it's big enough where it's okay. This is like national stage type thing. So the goal is to get those into fruition, if I can say that. One is
Mhm.
related to like TV and everything like that, and it ties to what we did with the short film, because that
Okay.
was more of a proof of concept for a bigger project. So that's one thing, and then the other thing is it would require me to actually move to New York and all kind of stuff, and so those are the two really really big things. But if we're successful and they go the way that they're supposed to go, it will open the other doors that I need to open right now, and so that's kind of where a lot of my focus is right now. Um, and I'm excited. Honestly, it's a lot of work. You're tired, but we're getting so close to making some things happen. And mind you, some of these things are so outrageous, as far as like, are you really
Mm.
serious that you think you can do this? Well,
Okay.
I did
Okay.
everything else. We might as well
You
try.
might as well try it. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so this is the most I've really stepped out into something where I'm not 100% in control, which again, that's all
Oh,
it has
okay.
too.
That's okay.
One of my life lessons has been learning to release control and let things happen the way they're supposed to. You can't control what happens, but we can control how we respond. And so being in a
Mm.
space to be okay with being uncomfortable. And that's
Mm.
the only reason
Yeah.
why I've had the gall to attempt what we're trying to do right now. And so,
Mhm.
and I learned a lot of that from working with my writing partner on our short film, because again, I was tested beyond my limits, because when you're executive producing, a short film or any project, everything falls on you. She was directing, I was executive producing, and we had to trust that we both knew what we were doing, because a lot of times we filmed for 3 days for that short film. I was only on set for maybe 20% of the filming, because I'm here and there and getting this and finding money for this, and you really have to have some fight in you, because
Yes. Oh, yes.
film, anything with the best of plans, the world will still get in the way. And anything that you can think of happened when we were doing that project, and we were happy
Mm.
to come out of it, and get into some film festivals and thrive, because it was a lot of work. But that experience just kind of got me even more equipped for what's next.
Better
And so
things. Better
that
things.
combination of that and
Yeah.
working with kids, because working with kids is no day is the same. You guys
Right.
already. It's just built me for what we're working on right now. So I'm excited, and I'll be so excited
Yes.
when I can kind of share what some of that is. We're
Yes. I'm
just
looking forward to it. I
being
was
very careful right now. So yeah.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. So please keep me abreast. And if please, you're welcome to come back on my I hope
Oh,
that you come back. I
anytime.
hope that you come back.
Yeah,
Yes, I hope that you come back, especially to promote these endeavors of yours. I really
yeah,
want to. I want you to keep me in mind for those things.
definitely,
All
Miss
right.
Faith. I
Oh yeah.
appreciate you for having me. This has been fun, and I appreciate that you
Wait,
have
wait, wait.
real
Hold on.
questions, right?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Thank you.
This
Yes.
is not a knock to any other
Yes.
platform I've been on.
No,
So
no, 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 no. Thank you.
this
Yeah, but
was
I mean, but you're not. Well, you. Oh, no, no. We're not done. I'm still.
no, okay, good. I'm glad. I
No,
just
we
okay.
ain't done. We
Because I was
ain't
like,
done.
this is like you
No, we
catch
have
like an
some fun.
old
No,
friend and
yeah.
y'all just shooting the
Yes.
breeze. So keep
No,
on shooting.
yes. No,
Okay.
thank you. You got no. You got to make some time for me because we ain't done because we got some fun to do. We got some fun to have. I have some little bit of fun with you, Calvin.
Yeah.
But but I want you to get your vocals together because I want you to do a
Oh
little singing. I
God.
want
Okay.
you to do a little bit of
Some
singing.
water here. This
Yes.
is water.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So
Not,
but
not in this
it's
thing.
gonna be fun. We're not
Okay.
American Idol. It's fun. It's only fun.
Okay.
But before we get into that, I want to get into a little bit of this or that.
Here they come, yo. Here they come.
Yeah, so this, so that. Oh, you like that, huh? Yeah, So this is what I just put. Random, anything random. It don't have to be any particular thing. I just ask, and you have to choose one or the other. You can't choose both. You can't plead the fifth. You got to ask. You have to choose one or the other.
No explanation. Just say the straight answer.
Yeah, I mean you can. I mean
Okay.
but
Some folks like, nope, just this or that. I'm like, Lord,
no.
Like your mom or your dad. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. So, After Party by Coffee Brown, or You Called and Told Me by Jeff Red. Is that his name? Jeff Red. Yeah. I know. I'm starting already. I'm just getting started.
You Called and told me for the nostalgia.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite New Jack Swing songs.
Oh, okay. So just so for the people to help the people in the audience, for those that's living under a rock, you called and told me that you wanted to leave. Yeah, so that's that. And then After Party by Coffee Brown. Go ahead, sing that for me, Calvin. Help me out. Because you have the better voice than I do.
I don't know the rest of the words, but I know the melody.
There it is. That's what they need. That's all they need. Yeah. Yeah. So all right. So since you Kojic and all that.
Oh God.
Kojic and everything. Mm-hmm. Let's see. John P. Key or Byron Cage?
John P. Key. Show Up is one of my favorite songs. That is my childhood. I still feel like it just came out. So
okay. Now, Velvet Rope or Demeter Joe?
Velvet Rope. Velvet Rope is what made me a fan. The Demeter Joe is probably what made me a stan. But I love both of those albums.
Got you. Okay. All right. So, guacamole or salsa?
Guacamole.
Okay. Pringles or Lay's?
Pringles.
Yeah. You know what the trick is. You know what I do? When I put them in a container, you gotta put some line up with some paper towel.
Oh, okay,
yeah. Yeah, that's how I do it. Yeah, because you're right about that. Okay, so because I was like I had so many for you. I was like, oh, I can't wait till he comes on. Okay, Alexander O'Neal or Howard Hewitt?
Oh, okay. All right. Alexander O'Neal. He has one of my favorite songs, All True Man. That's my song. I prefer Howard Hewitt's voice, but I listen to more Alexander O'Neal. And I also like Fake. That was my song too.
Which one?
Fake.
Okay. Oh, that's the Under the Crate one.
Yeah, that's what
it goes. Yeah.
That's my song.
Yeah. Okay. That's one of, like I said, one of those underrated hits, actually. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, Chris Brown or Usher?
Usher.
Oh wow, you said that real quick.
I don't even mean it like that.
Okay.
Usher, that was childhood for me. I like Chris though, but Usher, I listen to more of his music.
Oh,
and I been his shows more. So yeah.
Okay, no, understandable. Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
Oh, you listen to? I listen to both. I'm trying to think who I was listening to, but I was probably listening to NSYNC more as a kid.
NSYNC more?
But I prefer the voices of Backstreet Boys as a group.
Okay,
got it. Have better songs, I think.
Now I'm gonna take a little bit further back. Marvin Gaye or Teddy Pendergrass?
Teddy is one of my favorite male vocalists. I probably watched every Teddy concert on YouTube, the Lake Tahoe show that in the UK. I haven't watched all that. Teddy's one of the people who has the voices that I wish I had, because he's from that era where the men had to their voice.
Yes, that grit. It's that grit. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Earth, Wind, and Fire or Cameo?
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
yeah, I'm taking you back. I'm like, what you know about these people? What you know about them? Yeah. So, okay. Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Hot dogs. On the grill.
On the grill. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Good answer. Very good answer. Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna give you a good one right here. Oh. Okay. Stevie Wonder or Smokey Robinson? Stevie. Okay. Oh, why is that?
His catalog is just so much bigger. I love Smokey. Smokey has an amazing falsetto, and I sing in a lot of falsetto, so I love that. But Stevie is that 5-6 album run he had in the mid 70s. That not too many people have ever touched that. So
Right. Okay, that's true. Okay. Okay. Surf or turf?
surf,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
surf.
But those that don't know, I just asked him either beef or seafood.
I'm a
Beef or
sea. Anything under the
seafood.
sea, I will eat. Like
Oh, okay.
anything, it don't matter what it is, I will eat it.
Are you a breast man or a butt man?
Oh my god. Breast, okay, somebody got mad when I said this. I said I don't think people care about breasts anymore. That's real 1990s to me. So breasts are cool. I'm a butt man. I'm sorry, but like I think the breast because like think back to the 90s when everybody had the big Pam Anderson implant. Nobody is into that. I should say, yeah, they're nice, but yeah, cool.
Like macaroni and cheese or macaroni salad?
Macaroni salad. So oddly enough, I don't like cheese. I'll eat
Okay.
pizza on occasion.
Okay.
I've never been a cheese person. I will eat macaroni and cheese on occasion if it's the kind you can slice and it's very baked. But if it's too creamy, I don't want it. Like I don't like creamy,
Gotcha.
which is
Okay.
why when we lived in Italy, I wasn't touching half the food. And yeah, all the pizzas and I didn't want none of it. So,
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. No, I understand. Duly noted. Okay, so can we talk or right now? Can we talk by Tevin? Can we talk by Tevin? Lord Jesus, I'm so
Tevin Campbell.
Tevin, thank you, Tevin Campbell, or right now by Ivy Shore.
Oh, okay. I was like, which one are you talking about?
What you talking? Yeah, and I'm asking for a reason. Go ahead. I'm gonna tell you.
Wait, which right now is that? Is that the think I wanna learn my lesson? Is it that song? Is
Yes,
that right now?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go with Can We Talk? And it's only because right now I'm convinced that Tevin Campbell's Alone With You is an extension of the Right Now song, and I prefer the Alone.
Yeah, that's what. Yes, that's yes. But yes, it is.
Okay.
Right now is an extension of.
I didn't know if that was intentional or not, but one day I was like, why does it sound like Tevin's? Yeah, but I do love Right Now. I love that song.
Yes. I meant that. Yeah, that's a good one. That's one of those underrated hits that shouldn't have been. Mm-hmm. All right, Speaker Box or Love Below?
The Love Below. Prototype. That was my favorite song.
It's just Andre 3000 for me.
Yeah.
All together. Okay. So, music or comedy?
As far as like me doing or what I enjoy consuming.
Would you prefer the most? What do you prefer the most?
Music.
Okay. All right. So that right there. I mean, that's the longest I did this segment.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah. So now we're going to go into sing it how you read it.
Yeah. Yo, Addison, singing challenge.
Yeah. So I'm going to be writing some things down. Just some stuff, not too crazy, not too offensive, but you're going to have to come up with a song on the spot for real.
Oh,
right?
God. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Let me do the first one here. I should have started writing while you was doing this or that, but I was so intrigued by the this or that. Okay. So, okay, there we go. Okay.
Okay, I'm blind as a bat. That okay. Combing out buckshots. And I gotta make a song with this.
Yes.
Combing out buckshots, babe. Combing out buckshots. Mm-hmm. Combing out buckshots. I don't know. Just silly. Okay.
Okay. Hold on. Okay.
Okay. Corner of the cornbread. Right?
Yes.
Oh Lord. Okay. Time. We need a melody. I'm not trying to think of a melody. I don't want the corner of the cornbread. Oh no, I don't want the corner. It's too hard. Sometimes it's
stop.
crunchy.
Mm.
They overbake it. It don't be right. I want the middle.
You want the middle. Okay.
Ring around the Grandma said, "Don't leave no ring around the tub." Oh no, Grandma said you ain't washed real good if you got a ring around the tub. That means you ain't washed every day, and you just did just now. So that's funny. I'm gonna steal this game and do this with my family.
Go ahead. Yes. Absolutely.
Starter on. Oh Lord. All right. Tartar on the teeth.
I'm gonna get real nasty with this one. Go ahead. I'm go ahead.
Oh, Jesus. All right. The reason your breath is real nasty because you got tartar on your teeth. Said you got tartar on your teeth. That's why your breath is so nasty.
I like that one. Yeah, I like that one. That's good. Yeah. Come on now. Give me one more bar. I like that. I like he was going with that.
Get some floss and get that plaque. Otherwise, you gotta pull it back up out my face.
Yes. Now here go. I'm sorry.
I should have had something else in this red cup if this how we was gonna be playing.
Okay. All right. Here, let me see how you gonna respond to this one.
Okay, hold on. I can't see it yet. Oh wait, you froze up on me. Okay, clean. What? Oh my god. Okay, before I even think of something, can I just tell you? I remember freshman year of college because we were in an all-male dorm.
Okay.
We used to have meetings. We had got yelled at because there were too many people who were satisfying themselves in the sink, like in the bathrooms, and it was clogging the pipes.
Oh.
So yeah, we had to have a whole lecture about not doing that. Okay.
Yes,
It was.
Yeah, but usually after you have a good time, you
cleaning. I don't even know where to put the. Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I couldn't help myself.
They call it a hookup bath when you clean your feet over the sink. You need to take a shower. Hookup bath when you clean your feet all over the sink. Because you know it is. Yeah. Yeah.
That last one.
Okay. Oh, I need to start saying that at the end of my videos. I never say that.
Yeah.
Like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, you gotta like, share, and subscribe.
Oh, I like that.
You like the content, share,
I like
subscribe.
that.
Oh, you got to like, share, and subscribe. Yeah.
Yes. I like that one. I'm gonna use that in one of my clips.
Yeah, go on and use it.
Yes, please. Thank you, Calvin Michaels. I love that. But a couple of last two questions before we wrap up. Yeah, was that fun for you?
That was fun. That's so funny.
I love it.
Lord, my subscribers see that thinking about Calvin. What in the hell? Yeah.
I couldn't help myself with that.
I keep it I'm real low key on the channel, so they like I didn't even know he could talk like that. But
right, yeah, but that. Yeah, so I had to go there with you on that one. I wanted to actually see what you was gonna say about that one. I was looking forward to that. That bar you was gonna set. Yeah. So now, if you had 5 people at the seat of your table, dead or alive, who would they be and why?
Oh, that's a fun question. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Regina Hall is one of my favorite people in the world.
Yes,
I know if she's at the table, we're gonna be in there dying.
She's my spirit. She's one of my spirit animals. Yes, absolutely.
So, Regina Hall is one. I would also say, God, this is hard. Jimmy Jam, just because he's the producer of one of my favorite artists and pretty much the sound of the 80s and 90s for a lot of folks. So Regina Hall, Jimmy Jam. I'd say Terry Lewis, but that's going to take up one of the seats. So we're just going to make them a 2-for-1 special. So Jimmy Jam. I would also say Red Fox. I would love
Mm,
to see how he would see the world right now. I know we'd be in here dying.
mm, interesting.
In addition to that, mm, oh my God.
Right?
Yeah, this is hard. Oh Lord. Okay, this should not take this long.
No, I mean, hey, it happens, and it could change tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
for right now.
Let me think some people who aren't with us anymore. Um, actually, I think they are still with us. Let me think of somebody. Oh no, 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 no. Left Eye from TLC. I'd love to pick her
Mm,
brain,
mm.
and I would also say Chadwick Boseman. Um, I think there was so much more he had to offer the world. Unfortunately, his time was
Mm.
short lived. But yeah, I think that would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that is. That is. Okay, thank you for that.
I think
All
he's
right.
had a journey that was, yeah, there's a lot he could have shared.
Yeah, Chadwick Boseman. Okay, okay. Now, this is a question that I would love to hear the answer to as well. I enjoy the responses that I get. So, this is a question that I take from James Lipton from Inside the Actor Studio. So, Calvin Michaels, when you enter into the pearly gates, what would you want God to say?
Now, my culture cancer would be well done, thy good and faithful servant.
Yes, yes,
um,
you're right. Hmm.
what I would want him to say is that everybody who I deeply love is on the other side of that gate, and they've been waiting for you. Like
Mm.
that's the thing. Like I don't know if you know that Kirk Franklin song that what's it called? Winter's Promise. Just let heaven be real. I don't know if you've ever heard that song.
I don't think so.
That song be giving me a boohoo.
Okay, so I gotta look it up.
But
You said, what's it called?
it's called Winter's Promise, but winter with
Winter's
a Y,
Promise.
like
Okay,
WY.
okay.
I just always think of that song because I'm like, Lord, let it be real. Because when I think how we sometimes make our peace with people who have transitioned is that we get to see them again in some kind of realm, and that's sometimes I
Mhm.
think gives us the peace of mind as opposed to the idea of no, you just a hole in the ground, that's it. So you know, yeah, when I think of those who are no longer with us and those that I loved on, and then again, even those who were there before you, like if you're talking your ancestors, just imagine you
Oh,
get
yes.
it's generations
Ooh,
and they're
goodness.
saying we're proud
Yes,
that you were able to all of that.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
and I've had a lot of family members pass in the last few years, so that's what I would want to hear. Like they're waiting
yes.
for you on the other side.
They're waiting for
All
you.
in. Mhm.
Oh, amazing. I like that. I like that. Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, but Calvin Michaels, y'all. I mean, I thank you so much for coming on and spending this time with me. I enjoyed every minute of it.
This was fun.
Yes,
I appreciate
yes. Oh,
you.
good. I'm glad you feel that way. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm so glad we are able to connect. And I have to apologize. Like I was telling her, she reached out a few years ago.
Yes,
Never
yes.
saw the message. So when I got this one, because Instagram, they put your stuff in the request folder. But because
Yes, yes.
they've
Mm,
following, so because I have so many that come from YouTube, I just happened to be scrolling. I'm like, who? And then when I saw your question and I saw that you had sent something in like 2020,
yeah. Mhm.
oh, I have to do her show. I felt so bad. So I'm so sorry. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But I figured I said, let me try because I mean, like I said, I'm a fan of your platform, but and I know that that's not what you normally do. Like, what I was asking before was not normally within your realm. So, but I felt like, okay, let me try to do something different.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
I don't even remember seeing. I hadn't even seen the
Yeah,
question. I felt so
yeah,
bad. I was like, man, I felt
yeah.
like a jerk. Shoot the email
No.
next time. Hit the email next time. You get me faster.
Oh,
But
oh, yeah, you know what? I know a lot of people prefer email, so I'm starting to learn that now that I got this platform. I'm starting to learn that now.
but no, I
E
appreciate you for
Yeah.
reaching out. And then yeah,
Yeah,
just
no, I
make
thank you
this
for
a
reaching
fun space.
back.
Yeah.
It's an honor for me. Yeah, it really is an honor for me, and like I said, I hope that this will be I want you to be a friend to my platform when I don't know, like I always tell people, I don't know how far is it gonna go, but I want you to be on this journey with me, Calvin, so I
I
really
am
do
locked in.
appreciate
Invite
that.
me anytime. It's gonna go to
Yeah,
the people who's supposed to hear it. That's how I move. So yeah.
but ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Calvin Michaels in the building. Thank you so much. I hope you have a good one. God
Thank
bless
you
you.
too. See you later.
God bless
Bye.
you. Yeah. That was Calvin Michaels. I keep wanting to call him Calvin Richardson for the longest because that's one of my favorite underrated artists. So I have to keep catching myself that no, his name is not Calvin Richardson. Calvin, but thank you so much to Calvin Michael. Shout out to him. Yes, I just really, really hope that you guys have taken so many gems and so much from this young man. And like I said, he's still got so much that we have to look forward to. Because to me, it seemed like he's just getting started. So I just really want the audience to aspire um, to be able to pursue whatever it is, whatever endeavors that you're pursuing, because as you can see, despite all of the tests, there always been a testimony behind along with that. So I just appreciate Calvin Michaels for coming on and just bringing so much to this platform. I mean, he has blessed me with his presence big time, and I don't think he knows how much he's inspiring me just from this conversation alone. So I'm looking forward to many more of those happening in the near future. And please make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Do what he said in that song. Listen to what the lyrics say. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I really do appreciate all the support that I've been getting. And so let me see. Now, my next interview is going to be with Nicole McGraw. She is an educator, and so we're coming into the mid school year, ending mid year, and so I'm looking forward to her discussing the climate of our education system, because Calvin Michaels just spoke on that as well, about how we can the climate of our education system and how we need to improve on that. So I'm looking forward to Nicole McGraw coming on to kind of expound on that as well. So that's going to be my next interview, Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please make sure that you tune into that. And so I'm going to bid you adieu. If you don't hear from me between now and this coming Monday, have a good night.